Chapter 380 Ancient Immortal Descent. Xin Fan gently and instantly killed 7 people, instantly making the entire hall turn deathly silent. The Fong family members who were still alive all stood there and didn't dare to move, only looking at Xin Fan dumbly. What had just happened was too frightening. Xin Fan had killed 7 people with a single lift and flip of his palm. Among these 7 people, there were Grand Masters, but they still died instantly. This was too terrifying. One could even say that it was so terrifying that it was unimaginable. Even a God Realm powerhouse couldn't possibly achieve such an extent. I'm done with my revenge, so if you want to take revenge next, do so. At the moment when the crowd was shocked, Xin Fan's flat voice came again. With that, Xin Fan walked to the side, pulled out a chair and sat down, assuming a posture of watching the show. And after this voice came, it instantly made those living Fong family members come back to their senses, and their eyes looked at Xin Fan in shock and uncertainty. The other party was actually here to avenge their injury to Chao Qingguan. Then if Chao Qingguan alone faced the Fong family members who were still alive, there was still hope for their Fong family. However, they also realized that something was wrong. Xin Fan had come to injure Chao Qingguan and then moved to kill him. Now, letting Chao Qingguan take revenge on his own, if the Fong family injured Chao Qingguan again, wouldn't the result be the same as just now? The hope that was originally lit up was extinguished in an instant. As long as this Xin Fan was around, the Fong family was fish and meat and would surely die. Who exactly is your excellency? Our Fong family does not have any grudges against you. Moreover, behind our Fong family is the Yi family of the Summer Kingdom. If you decimate us, you will definitely attract the Yi family's retaliation. Fong was helpless at this moment and could only bring up the Yi family behind him. Chao Qingguan, hurry up, I'll give you just 15 minutes to take revenge. Only, Xin Fan simply ignored what Fong said and instead urged Chao Qingguan. Once Chao Qingguan heard this, he then said to Xin Fan, "Many thanks, master." After saying this, Chao Qingguan's face instantly turned hideous, then he transformed into an evil spirit and killed towards Fong. When Fong saw this scene, his face changed and he immediately had to strike out to answer the enemy. The other Fong clan members were also ready to join forces to deal with Chao Qingguan. Don't hurt my servants again, or I'll get angry. Only, Xin Fan, who was sitting and watching the show, faintly spoke out, and as soon as his words came out, all those Fong family members stopped, not daring to make a move. Sure enough, if they made a move to die, if they didn't, they would also die. In such a moment of stagnation, Chao Qingguan had already killed Feng's body and attacked him in a burst. Feng's strength was not as good as Chao Qingguan's at this moment, and it was far worse, and could only harm Chao Qingguan, relying on the siege of multiple experts from the Fong family. Now, those who died, those who didn't dare to move, then Feng could only be abused by Chao Qingguan. Miserable screams rose and fell within the Fong clan, as one after another of the Fong clan's people were torn to shreds by Chao Qingguan, giving vent to the hatred that had built up in their hearts. After about 10 minutes or so, the screams stopped. Chao Qingguan, covered in blood, walked to Xin Fan's body before kneeling on both knees. Finished? Xin Fan asked. Thanks to Master this time. If it wasn't for Master, I would have died without a doubt, with no hope of revenge. Chao Qingguan said to Xin Fan. Let's go then. Seeing that the matter was settled, Xin Fan said to Chao Qingguan. Master, can you give me some time? I want to go and pay my respects to my family. Chao Qingguan said to Xin Fan. As a human being, go. Xin Fan waved his hand signaling Chao Qingguan to go as he pleased. After you're done, go to the Juntian Hotel and look for me. After saying that, Xin Fan returned to the Juntian Hotel. After returning to the hotel, Lu Ziyan was in her room organizing important information about Imperial Bank through the internet, and when she saw Xin Fan return, she immediately got up to welcome him. Xin Fan, I want to. Lu Ziyan bit her red lips. With a charming face, she said. Xin Fan could only helplessly instruct Lu Ziyan on some cultivation. When they were 2 hours old, the two of them ended their cultivation. Lu Ziyan lay on the bed and fell into a deep sleep, while Chao Qingguan had already returned. Master, there is one more thing, I don't know if I should tell you or not. After returning, Chao Qingguan hesitated and said. If you said so, you must be ready to tell, go ahead. Xin Fan immediately said upon hearing this. Master, there is an ancient immortal monument out in the South Sea. Chao Qingguan asked. Ancient immortal trail? Xin Fan was slightly stunned upon hearing this, then his face was filled with incomprehension and even some surprise. Immortal is an immortal. This is the lifelong pursuit of those who cultivate immortals. Those who became immortal could live a long life and live with heaven and earth. As for the immortal ruins, Qin Fan naturally understood it as the relics of immortals. Even in the Qingxian star field, that kind of immortal cultivation world does not exist in the immortal relics, because the immortals have long gone to the immortal world. There will be no relics left in this earth with incomplete Taoist lineage and the age of the end of the law. There were immortal relics? Hearing this, Qin Fan could only ask with a puzzled look on his face, what ancient immortal relics? Chao Qingwan saw Qin Fan's doubt and immediately asked, Master, you don't know about the ancient immortal ruins? Immortal relics? Qin Fan asked. No, it's not an immortal ruin, it's a relic left behind by an ancient immortal descendant. Chao Qingwan immediately said. Ancient immortal descent? Qin Fan became more and more confused as he listened. What ancient immortal descent? Explain it clearly to me. Chao Qingwan could only be surprised by Qin Fan's words. His master was so powerful that he didn't know about the ancient immortal descendants, so he thought for a moment and said, ancient immortal descendants, that is, people who inherited the bloodline of the ethnicities of the ancient era call themselves that, because those ethnicities were the strongest people of the ancient times, and some of them could even be said to be immortal, that is why these descendants call themselves ancient. Immortal descendants. Qin Fan listened and roughly understood what was meant by ancient immortal descendants. It is the ethnicity or clan whose ancestors have brought and have continued to the present, then they call themselves the ancient immortal descendants. You give me an example. Qin Fan said. Master, the history of the summer country is extremely long. In the ancient times, there are many ethnic groups, and among these groups, it is natural that there are powerful and incomparable ethnic groups, such as Haotians, the Yellow Emperors, the Yin Huangs, the Chiyus, the Nuwa Huangs, the Xiaowangs, the Shinnongs, and many, many different kinds of clans. These clans, some clans perished, some clans have been continued to this day, and can continue to this day is not born a powerful and incomparable people. These people are known as Xian, and the continuation of the people will call themselves the immortal descendants. Like the 5 great families of the Xia kingdom, all of them are ancient immortal descendants. For example, the Qin family is the Haotian clan's lineage, the Xiao family is the Yin Huang clan's lineage, the Yi family is the Huang Di clan's lineage, the Chen family is the Swearing clan's lineage, and the Chu family is the White Emperor clan's lineage. These ancient immortal descendants have cultivation methods that have been passed down for a long time, thus there are countless strong and old monsters alive. It can be said that the true masters of the entire Xia kingdom are the ancient immortal descendants. The ancient immortal ruins are the remnants left behind after the demise of those once powerful clans. After I came to the western capital, I unintentionally met the Fong clan's people and the Yi clan's secret talks, in which they talked about the ancient immortal ruins. And this ancient immortal trail is an immortal trail left behind by the Shinnong clan. Chao Qingwan cited and explained in detail the ancient immortal descent and the ancient immortal descent to Qin Fan Shinnong clan. Qin Fan's brows furrowed at that, remembering those Qi monster legend stories he had read, which seemed to involve spiritual herbs and medicines, and even alchemy. He asked, do you know the location? In a place called Star Continent in the South Pacific Ocean. Chao Qingwan said. Chapter 381, is today's day special? Star Continent in the South Pacific? Qin Fan asked as he listened with a face of surprise and disbelief. Where is this place? There seems to be no such thing as a star continent on the map, and how could the relics of Xia's ancient clan be outside of Xia? With Qin Fan's memory, having seen the world map once, he knew the countries of the world, the names of the various places, and even in what location he was clear. However, Qin Fan did not find that there were any star continents in his memory. What was even more puzzling to him was that the Shinnong clan was an ancient community in the Xia kingdom, and was bound to be within the Xia kingdom, so how did it run off to the South Pacific? Master, according to the legend, there is a big gap between the maps of the ancient times and the present. The Xia kingdom was known as the divine state in the ancient times. For example, the Xia kingdom has a book called the Classic of Mountains and Seas, which has a peculiar map. So the so-called star continent might be the name of the ancient times, while the location is in the present South Pacific Ocean. Chao Qingwan told Qin Fan what he knew. As Qin Fan listened, he remembered the matter of the Holy Spirit sect's relics. There were Emperor Yuan and Emperor Shi in that place, so that underground relic was most likely the ancient immortal relics of the Shi Huang clan and the Nuwa Huang clan. Looking at it this way, I need to investigate where the star state is, Qin Fan finally said. I'm going to the new country soon, and I can help you investigate the star state and that ancient immortal relic in the new country then. After Qin Fan's words fell, a voice with a delicate sound came from inside. And then, a fully dressed Lu Zian was seen walking out from the room inside, and then naturally sat down at Qin Fan's side. Greetings to the Lord Mother. Chao Qingwan looked towards Lu Ziyan and said in a very knowledgeable manner. Lu Ziyan smiled extremely brightly when she heard Chao Qingyuan address her as Master Mother. Xin Fan naturally did not care, but was thinking about what Lu Ziyan had just said. Because of the matter of the Imperial Hao Bank, Lu Ziyan was definitely going to the new country, which was in a rather important location in the South Pacific Ocean, and it was indeed good to look for news of the Star State and the ancient immortal ruins. "I'll leave it to you then," Xin Fan said to Lu Ziyan. "Aha!" Lu Ziyan answered very happily. "Master, I will go down first." Seeing this, Chao Qingyuan naturally said in a very sensible manner. "Wait." Xin Fan called out to Chao Qingyuan. "What else does Master command?" Chao Qingyuan immediately stopped. "Sit still, I will help you enter the divine realm," Xin Fan said. Chao Qingyuan's face was filled with shock when he heard Xin Fan's words. "Hurry up," Xin Fan immediately said. Chao Qingyuan then followed Xin Fan's instructions and sat down on his knees while Xin Fan pressed one hand on top of his heavenly spirit. Instantly, Chao Qingyuan immediately felt a majestic strange power pouring into his body through his heavenly spirit, causing his essence and spirit to merge continuously. And then, an envoyed Dan appeared within Chao Qingyuan's body. In an instant, Chao Qingyuan felt that he had crossed a gate and entered a completely new realm, and he even had a marvelous feeling that he was free from his mortal body. Xin Fan, on the other hand, withdrew his hand at this moment and said, "You should feel that you have stepped into a completely new realm." As soon as Chao Qingyuan heard Xin Fan's words, he immediately changed from sitting to kneeling and said to Xin Fan, "The old slave has been instructed by all of you and stepped into the divine realm. There is no way to repay him in this life, so I can only swear allegiance to my master to the death." Of course he understood that he had stepped into the God realm, and this God realm seemed to be a little different from the God realm he understood. It could be said to be stronger, a kind of subtle God realm that made him no longer mortal. Previously, Xin Fan had taught the method of the divine soul, and also helped Chao Qingyuan to wash his marrow and hair, but as a result, this old man had not yet entered the divine realm for so long, so he could only help out, so that he wouldn't be able to protect Lu Ziyan when the time came, and Xin Fan helped Chao Qingyuan to condense the virtual Dan, not that martial arts of the Tongshan realm. As long as the chances were good enough, and Chao Qingyuan continued to cultivate, this void Dan would one day truly crystallize, and then Chao Qingyuan would become a Jiedan stage cultivator. Xin Fan looked at Chao Qingyuan and nodded. "You don't need to dwell on the Chao family's bloodline. Now that your flesh and dark disease have been restored, go and reproduce on your own, don't fall for a single broken scheme." Chao Qingyuan's old face blushed when he heard this, and immediately said, "Yes, Master's lesson is right." Lu Ziyan also laughed when she heard this and said, "Old Chao, do you want me to find you a few?" No, how can I trouble the Master Mother with this?" Chao Qingyuan hurriedly said. "All right, go down." Xin Fan waved his hand and said, "Yes." Upon hearing this, Chao Qingyuan hurriedly got up and headed out. And at this moment, Chao Qingyuan was already dead set against Xin Fan, and was even following Lu Ziyan to the death. "Are you really prepared to find a woman for Chao Qingyuan?" Seeing Chao Qingyuan leaving, Xin Fan suddenly asked. "It's not just a matter of money. In the traffic circle, Chao Qingyuan, with this status and this wealth, the line can be long." Lu Ziyan then laughed. Xin Fan was also happy to hear this, so he said, "Chao Qingyuan had better find a woman who can cultivate. If he really can't find one, you can find him a few more. The entire Chao family lineage will be left to him." Lu Ziyan sniffed and sat in Xin Fan's arms, wrapping her hands around his neck and said softly, "Then have you ever thought of having an offspring?" When Xin Fan heard this, he was slightly stunned. He understood that Lu Ziyan wanted to give him an offspring only. People who cultivate immortals, as their strength grows, reproducing offspring will become more and more difficult. Even if they want to reproduce, they will inevitably choose a female cultivator whose cultivation and strength is close to that of Lu Ziyan, which is impossible for Lu Ziyan right now. "It's not time yet," Xin Fan said. Lu Ziyan smiled at his words and stopped clinging to Xin Fan. Instead, she continued her own work. Of course, the most important thing was to help Xin Fan find news about the Star State and the ancient immortal ruins. A few days later, at the Shidu airport, Xin Fan sent Lu Ziyan onto the airplane. In the past few days, Lu Ziyan had been engaged in cultivation with Xin Fan, so she was already at the first level of qi refining, which made Lu Ziyan look like she exuded the flavor of a modern fairy. "If I have news, I will contact you immediately." Lu Ziyan was a bit reluctant to part with Xin Fan, but still wore a smile as she said goodbye to him. After sending Lu Ziyan on the plane, Xin Fan looked at the time and got on the plane himself to return to Jiangcheng. Previously, he had promised Lin Xinyan to go back before September 19th, and today was September 19th. "Have you arrived yet? It's 8 o'clock. As soon as Qin Fan landed, he received a call from Lin Qingyan. Arrived, right at the door. Qin Fan answered, then, soon he saw Lin Qingyan driving a red Ferrari to pick him up. What exactly is the surprise? Qin Fan asked immediately after getting into the car. Once Lin Qingyan heard Qin Fan's question, she looked at Qin Fan and smiled and said, I knew it, you don't remember what day it is. Is today's day special? Nothing special. Qin Fan listened and thought about it. Today seemed to be a very ordinary day. You'll know later. Lin Qingyan answered, then stepped on the gas and set off. Chapter 382, Same Birthday. Qin Fan sat in Lin Qingyan's car and soon returned to the villa at Fei Hong Mountain. You wait. After getting out of the car, Lin Qingyan then hurriedly ran down and told Qin Fan to wait. After I go in, you count to 10 before going in. After saying that, she hurriedly ran into the villa. Qin Fan frowned when he saw the scene. He had already sensed that there were many people inside, but given that Lin Qingyan had said that it was a surprise, he didn't use his divine sense. Instead, he followed Lin Qingyan's words and counted to 10 before walking into the villa. Snap! As soon as the door was pushed open, there was immediately the sound of a handheld salute, and then many sequins glittering with various colors sprinkled down happy birthday. Then, Lin Qingyan took the lead and stood in front of Qin Fan, saying with a smiling face, Happy birthday! Happy birthday! And after Lin Qingyan's words fell, there were also Jiang Qinglian, Ning Rushuan, Anti Wang, Jiang Tianxiong, and these also spoke out in the room. Qin Fan froze for a moment when he heard all these congratulations, then said, Birthday? Today is my birthday? Lime, I knew he forgot his birthday. Hearing Qin Fan's words, Lin Qingyan immediately turned to Jiang Qinglime who was standing at the side and said, It's really been said. Jiang Qinglime had a resigned look on her face. Obviously because of this she had made a bet with Lin Qingyan and now she had lost. Lin Qingyan ran to Qin Fan's side and naturally took Qin Fan's hand and said, Isn't it a surprise? Surprise, indeed a surprise, Qin Fan then said with a smile. Originally, I wanted to organize a grand birthday party for you in the hotel, but Qingyan said that you definitely don't like this kind of thing, so I listened to her and organized a small birthday party for you at home. Jiang Qingliang also walked to Qin Fan's side and said, Very surprising. Qin Fan responded. For his birthday Qin Fan didn't feel much at all because it was the birthday of his original body on Earth, not his own real birthday at all, so of course he didn't feel much, but he was still quite happy that these people were so happy to celebrate his birthday for him. After all, he had cultivated immortality for more than 200 years, but he had never really experienced a birthday party like this. After that, Qin Fan cooperated with these people to celebrate his birthday for him, what with blowing out candles and playing games, and then there were birthday gifts which were naturally very expensive if I count up according to the divine soul clock. What is my birthday converted to the Earth's calendar? And in the midst of celebrating his birthday, Qin Fan suddenly thought of his real birthday. The passage of time was the same, but the calendar of the Qingxian star region was different, so the dates were different, but they could be converted. And cultivators do have their own algorithm for the passage of time, which is the divine soul clock. Because once the cultivator is closed for cultivation is not know the year, which calculates the passage of time will rely on the divine soul clock. Immediately, Qin Fan utilized the divine soul clock to convert the timescale according to his birthday in Qingxian starfield, and then converted it into the Earth's calendar date. September 19th. After Qin Fan finished calculating, he fiercely spoke out in surprise when the crowd heard Qin Fan's words. They all froze for a moment and looked at Qin Fan with a puzzled expression. What's wrong? Qin Fan? Lin Qingyan looked at him with a confused face. Nothing, I'm just remembering that today is my birthday. Qin Fan answered. Qin Fan's voice was calm, but his heart was not calm at all. He had crossed the long star field and came to Earth, meeting a mortal who had fallen off the mountain, and this person's birthday was the same day even though it was not in the same year. Could this be a coincidence? Moreover, it just so happens that my real name is Qin Fan, and this Fell Mountains is also called Qin Fan, and now it's still the same birthday. This definitely can't be a coincidence. At this moment, Qin Fan's heart could be said to be in shock. Thinking of all this, Qin Fan fiercely got up and walked towards the door at an extremely fast speed. The crowd froze when they saw Qin Fan's reaction walking to the courtyard outside the villa. Qin Fan raised his head to look at the stars in the sky, his brows furrowed, and his breathing showed some haste. Cultivation of immortals spoke of cause and effect. Everything now could definitely not be a coincidence, that in the underworld there must be cause and effect. Thinking of cause and effect, Xin Fan closed his eyes and kept searching the memories that he had searched from his original body on Earth. He wanted to find the reason why the Xin Fan had fallen down to Mount Tai. At one time, Xin Fan had not cared about the cause of the cliff fall, everything seemed like a coincidence to him. However, now there was absolutely no way it could be a coincidence. Exactly why did he fall off the cliff? Did he jump off the cliff himself, or was it someone's harm, or was it inevitable? Xin Fan continuously searched this memory. A memory fragment flashed by, with his powerful divine soul sweeping through these memory fragments. As long as there was an abnormality, he would be able to detect it. No accidents, no hidden circumstances. It was an accidental fall off a cliff. How could it be? Is it really a coincidence? It can't be a coincidence. After combing through his memories, Xin Fan did not find any hint of suspicion, but he still did not feel it was a coincidence. Xin Fan, what's wrong with you? Suddenly, a soft voice came. This voice came instantly, causing Xin Fan to return to his senses and look at the person who spoke. It was Lin Xingyan. Today's Lin Xingyan was wearing a light blue dress, wearing light makeup, very pure. Her eyes looked at Xin Fan with worry. What's wrong with you? Seeing that Xin Fan did not answer, Lin Xingyan reached out and held Xin Fan's hand, asking worriedly. In the past, Xin Fan was always cloudy at all times, but now Lin Xingyan clearly felt Xin Fan's uneasiness. Did you not like the birthday party I prepared for you? Lin Xingyan asked worriedly when she saw Xin Fan didn't answer. Xin Fan looked at Lin Xingyan, his mind gradually regained its calmness, then said, No, I really like the birthday party you arranged for me. It's the first time I've had a birthday like this. I really like it. Lin Xingyan looked at Xin Fan with a dimpled smile and said, I will, in the future, arrange a birthday party for you every year. Every year? Xin Fan was slightly stunned at the words, then answered, Aha. What's wrong with you? Running out all of a sudden? Could it be that you already know about the performance in the back? Zhang Qinglian and the others had also walked out. The performance? Xin Fan looked at Zhang Qingliang somewhat oddly. Of course it's fireworks. Lin Xingyan said with a smile. After she finished speaking, she snapped her fingers. As her words fell, a sound of fireworks rang out, and then the sky was filled with fireworks that shone in the night sky, illuminating it. Happy birthday! Lin Xingyan said as she looked at Xin Fan with a smile like a flower. Xin Fan looked at the brilliant fireworks in the sky and said, Thank you. Just as Xin Fan answered thank you, he suddenly felt that everything around him had disappeared, and he was the only one standing in the middle of heaven and earth. The heaven and earth continued to rotate and finally incorporated into his body. The divine will of transformation, complete. In an instant, Xin Fan's heart was filled with incredulity. Chapter 383, 3 Attributes. The birthday party ended in a cheerful atmosphere, and Xin Fan returned to his room and sat cross-legged on his bed. I didn't expect that my divine transformation heavenly will had been perfected first. Xin Fan's current feeling could be said to be extremely marvelous. He had always thought that it was his cultivation that would reach the great circle of the Yuaning stage first, and then he would slowly sense the divine transformation heavenly will afterwards. However, at this moment, his own God-transforming heavenly will had been perfected first. Birthday. Xin Fan muttered to himself. He knew that none of this was a coincidence, but no matter how he thought about it, he could not come up with any clue. Let's put this matter aside for now. The most important thing right now is to make his cultivation reach the great circle of the Yuaning stage. After that, it's the search for the 10,000 tribulation God transformation method. Not being able to figure it out, Xin Fan naturally put it aside for the time being and set 2 goals for himself. I hope that the Divine Known Clan's ancient immortal trail will not disappoint me, Xin Fan said, and went into his cultivation state. The formation of the Flying Rainbow Mountain had never stopped, plus the strange section of tree branches within the villa, turning the place into a rather good blessed place for cultivation. On the following day, Xin Fan ended his cultivation and walked to the backyard of the villa, where he planted that odd section of tree branch, as well as the seeds brought from the underground, becoming a medicinal garden, which he hadn't come to see for a long time, and this time, he definitely had to take a look at it when he was at home. What are you doing? Xin Fan froze when he walked to the medicine garden. To his surprise, he found that Lin Xingyan was holding a kettle to water the shoots growing in the medicine garden. Watering ah. When Lin Xingyan saw Xin Fan coming, she immediately straightened her petite body and looked at him and said, You're a missing person every day, no one helps you take care of it, so Auntie Wang and I are free, so we'll water it for you. Xin Fan smiled at his words and walked over to the edge of that strange section of branches, while Lin Xingyan also came over. Xin Fan, what is this kind of yours? I look at it as a section of rotten wood. and although the shoots are growing, it's been like this for many days, and it seems like it won't be able to grow much longer. Lin Chengyan said as she looked at the strange section of branch. I don't know, I can only wait a little longer. Qin Fan also said slightly helplessly. This section of the dead branch was full of shoots, but when it reached the stage of shoots, there was no change in it, but the vitality that was emitted had slowly increased, which let Qin Fan know that this section of the dead branch had been growing. What about the others? I don't see any of those shoots emitting that I have not seen before, Lin Qingyan asked again. Qin Fan shrugged his shoulders and said, I can't really recognize the shoot stage. Lin Chengyan looked at Qin Fan and beamed, then said, we can only wait for it to grow. After that, the two of them returned to the house and Auntie Wang prepared breakfast. Lin Qingyan picked up her cell phone, glanced at it and said, it's dead. And after saying that, her hand suddenly released an electric light that entered the phone through the charging port, and immediately after that the phone screen lit up. You can still discharge electricity? Qin Fan saw revealed a surprised expression. Lin Qingyan had actually released electricity to charge the phone. Awesome, isn't it? Lin Qingyan stretched out her white forefinger and thumb, while there were actually thin flashes of thunder between her forefinger and thumb. Qin Fan immediately reached out and pressed Lin Qingyan's wrist. What are you doing? It's hurting me, Lin Qingyan said somewhat grudgingly when Qin Fan pressed her wrist like this, but her hand did not pull back. Qin Fan quickly inspected Lin Qingyan's body and found that Lin Qingyan's body actually contained the power of the three attributes of ice, fire, and thunder within her body, and these three forces were harmoniously intermingled together without any rejection. Qin Fan was stunned. He himself was burdened with the body of the five elements, and the five elements were mutually exclusive, and if he did not cultivate a special technique, the mutually exclusive attributes would cause the breath within his body to flow chaotically, his mana to be confused, and he would eventually go off the deep end. However, Lin Qingyan cultivated was the single attribute ice, cloud, Xin Jing, fire, and thunder were not cultivated at all, but these three attributes did not have any rejection, which really shocked Qin Fan. What's wrong? Lin Qingyan asked somewhat strangely when she saw that Qin Fan had been holding her hand without letting go. When did the power of thunder appear in you? Qin Fan asked. When? Lin Qingyan sniffed and thought for a moment. About 10 days ago, when I was practicing, I felt a big thunder bird manifest in my consciousness, and then I was somehow able to release thunder power. Qin Fan heard this and his thoughts turned quickly, thinking, is there a bird in the world that contains thunder, fire, ice, and the three systems? It seems like there isn't. Will there be a problem? Lin Qingyan asked with some concern when she saw Qin Fan in this state. There is no problem at the moment, so continue your cultivation. Qin Fan said. Oh. Lin Qingyan answered, then asked, how powerful do you think I am now? How powerful do you think you are? Qin Fan asked. I think I don't even need to sleep anymore, I feel very powerful. Lin Qingyan immediately laughed. Since she started cultivating, Lin Qingyan realized that she didn't need to sleep at all, so she must be very powerful. Second level of qi refining. Qin Fan spoke out. What second level of qi refining? Real immortal cultivation? Lin Qingyan froze as she listened. You don't think you're not cultivating immortality, do you? Qin Fan asked oddly. Lin Qingyan was speechless. She really thought she wasn't cultivating immortality. It's going to be late, I have to go to work. Suddenly, Lin Qingyan glanced at her phone and realized that it was getting late, so she hurriedly got up. The company is all your own, and you're still late. Qin Fan responded with a smile. I have to set an example, work is so busy now, if I'm late, how bad would the impact be? Lin Qingyan blankly glanced at Qin Fan and immediately hurried out the door, got into the car and went straight to her own company. Currently, Xiuli had already tied up with Tianqin, and the business became very busy, which naturally caused Lin Qingyan's work to be unusually busy. After sending Lin Qingyan away, Qin Fan took out the dragonfish meat and did careful processing, preparing to cook these and distribute them to the people around for consumption. After all, the quantity was also large. In the following days, Qin Fan was cooking dragonfish meat and practicing, waiting for Lu Xian's news. During this time, he contacted Sasaki Saori to inquire about the situation in the Japanese country. Sasaki Saori would soon become the Prime Minister of Japan, making her the first female Prime Minister of Japan. This made Qin Fan the Supreme Emperor of the Japanese country. Is Xiao Cheng awake? Qin Fan inquired. Little Green had fallen into a deep sleep after eating a large amount of blood and internal organs from the dragonfish, apparently metamorphosing. Therefore, Qin Fan had left it in the Japanese country. Not yet, I've sent someone to guard it, Sasaki Saori immediately said. If anything happens, contact me. Qin Fan said after hearing this. Earlier, the Japanese intelligence discovered that a huge monster in the sea had traveled south. I don't know if it will trigger anything. Sasaki Saori said after thinking about it. Monster? When Qin Fan heard this, he immediately remembered the eight-headed serpent that was chasing Xiao Qing, but he didn't say anything more and hung up the phone. After 3 days, Qin Fan received a call from Lu Zian and set off for the new country. Before Qin Fan moved to the new country, there were many strong people from all over the world who were also preparing to make their move to the ancient immortal ruins. Chapter 384, The Clouds of the Eight Directions. Europa, Holy See. A knight in knight's armor stood above the square with an upright posture. Roar! Suddenly, a low roar of a dragon came from the sky, and the crowd then looked up to see a huge western dragon in the distance of the sky, flapping its wings and coming towards the square. Boom! Soon this giant dragon landed on the ground, letting out a roaring sound, and it was only after it landed that the crowd was able to see the figure of this giant dragon. It was a red giant dragon, with a body that was about 5 meters long and 2 meters high. And on the back of this dragon stood a middle-aged man with blonde hair and blue eyes, wearing armor. This middle-aged man was tall, 2 meters tall, and his face was as if it was cut out of a knife, making him extremely handsome. His back was burdened with a golden long sword, emitting a faint golden halo, appearing extremely sacred. The middle-aged man jumped down from the dragon's back to the ground. Welcome, my king. As soon as the man landed on the ground, those knights knelt down on one knee and shouted. This man was the Night King and the head of the Dragon Knights, one of the world's top 5 organizations, Arthur Pendragon, and the sword on his back was the Holy Sword, the sword of oath of victory. After Arthur landed on the ground, he crossed the square with his footsteps and entered within the pontifical hall. Pope. When Arthur walked into the middle of the great hall, he saw another old man in royal robes, and this person was the Pope William III of the Western Illuminati. William III looked at Arthur and let out a hoarse voice. The oracle has been reached, the hunt begins. Clang! Arthur fiercely drew out the sworn sword of victory and shouted, I honor the oracle. On the Atlantic Ocean, Hell Island. Lord Baal, everything is ready. The third demon god Abyssal Demonis, Sally knelt down and said to Bear on the throne. Bear opened his eyes and slowly stood up, letting out a low voice, Depart. As his words fell, he took a step towards the gate. And with every step he took, his white hair continued to turn black at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his originally aged face grew younger and younger. The moment he walked to the entrance of the great hall, he became a middle-aged man. Bear looked up to the sky and calmly said, Shen, you killed my hell demon god, it's time for you to die for your sins. Although his words were calm, they were permeated with a murderous intent. As his words fell, his body swept towards the South Pacific Ocean. Europa, an ancient castle in the north. This ancient castle towered over this place for an unknown number of years, while the surrounding area of the ancient castle was a barren forest. This old castle is known as the Scarlet Castle, only at this moment has been broken, all the colors are faded, but no one dares to approach this old castle. Because those who approached were all dead. Rumble. At this moment, in the deepest part of the underground of the ancient castle, a rumbling sound came, a coffin was opened, a sharp claw stretched out from the coffin, and then a man with fair to somewhat sickly skin stood up from the coffin. This man's appearance was incomparably demonic, and could even be said to be beautiful. This beauty could even make those beautiful women lose their colors. How long have I been sleeping? The man asked after he got up. 3,000 years. Just as this man's words fell, a respectful voice came. Afterward, several blood race members were seen walking towards the front and then kneeling on the ground. This man was the blood race's Count Dracula. Why did you wake me up? Dracula asked. Count, it's the oracle of the blood god, heading to hunt Qin. A blood clan member knelt on the ground and said respectfully. What is Qin? Dracula asked. He has disrupted the balance between the east and west. This blood clan said understood. Count Dracula answered. And as his words fell, a pair of blood-colored bat wings on his back violently unfolded before turning into a bloody light and rushing up into the sky. Summer Country, North China Yi family's ancestral land. Under the watchful eyes of Yi Hongtu, the current Yi family's head, and many Yi family's experts, the door to the ancestral land, which hadn't been opened for nearly 100 years, opened with a bang. From it, a middle-aged woman walked out. This middle-aged woman was dressed in an ancient tunic, with an immortal air, holding a 3-foot-long sword, just like a sword fairy. Seeing this middle-aged beautiful woman, Yi Hongtu and these people immediately revealed a shocked look and hurriedly knelt down, exclaiming, "Greetings to old ancestor Yin Yan. How is the investigation of the ancient immortal ruins going?" Yin Yan asked with a soft voice. "Reporting to old ancestor Yin Yan, it has been confirmed." Yi Hongtu said respectfully. "Where is Qin Xingxian?" Yin Yan asked indifferently. "The news has been leaked to him, and the ancient immortal trail is bound to tempt him to go there." Yi Hongtu immediately said. "Good, I will bring back Qin Xingxuan's head this time." Yin Yan said indifferently before changing into a sword rainbow that rushed up into the sky and disappeared into the southern sky. United States of America, White Palace. President Joe Bayside was kneeling on the ground with trepidation, and in front of him stood a white woman. This woman had blonde hair and blue eyes, her appearance was extremely beautiful, and her figure was even more outstanding. She held a golden spear and wore golden armor, her eyes looking towards the South Pacific Ocean. "It's almost time," this woman faintly said. And then changed into a golden light and disappeared. Joe Bayside watched the woman disappear, warily got up, and then spat out a sentence. "I didn't think that the god would be a woman, and it's still such a stunning woman. Who would have thought that the god that was once ranked first on the god list, the god that guided the United States of America to achieve world hegemony, would be a woman?" And at this moment, this woman's sword was pointing to the Pacific Ocean, vowing not to stop until she took Qin Xingxuan's life. While many experts around the world were moving in the clouds, Qin Fan was sitting in the business class of the airplane heading to the new country after saying goodbye to Lin Qingyan. Lu Ziyan gave him the news of an archipelago zone in the South Pacific Ocean of the Star State, and the ancient immortal trail was on top of a certain island, because there were many islands and the terrain was complicated, and it was not known at all that the exact location was unknown, and it was necessary to travel to look for it. Therefore, Qin Fan decided to go to the new country and Lu Ziyan to meet up, then will help Qin Fan to introduce an expedition team that is proficient in the geography of that place. While Qin Fan was meditating with his eyes closed, a young woman wearing fur with large sunglasses, snow-white skin, a sharp chin, and covered in designer labels, walked over to the edge of Qin Fan's seat. The woman just held her head back and stood quietly without making a sound. And then, a tall man in a suit walked over and said to Qin Fan in English, "This gentleman, my boss doesn't like to have people sitting on the side, so please make way and take the seat on the side." After this man finished speaking, he waited for Qin Fan's reply. Only, Qin Fan still closed his eyes and didn't pay any attention. This caused a displeased look to appear on the man's and the woman's faces. "He's just a turd, he doesn't understand English, so what English are you speaking?" Then the woman said to the man. The man heard it and then repeated what he had just said in summer Chinese. "If you don't like someone on the side, get yourself off to the side," Qin Fan said coldly. Chapter 385, will make them unforgettable for life. "Get off to the side by yourself." Qin Fan's voice came and immediately caused the pair to freeze for a moment. Soon, the man's face grimaced as he said, "You'd better cooperate, or else you'll suffer the consequences." Qin Fan opened his eyes and looked at the man, saying, "I'm curious to know what the consequences will be." The man's back went cold when he was gazed at by Qin Fan's cold gaze. Feeling that the other party was not to be messed with, he looked at his boss. The woman took off her sunglasses, revealing a cold and arrogant look. The woman's looks were quite good, but at a glance, she had been to South Korea and was the most popular Netflix face nowadays. It was inevitably not comparable to the women Qin Fan knew. "Miss Angel. You are Angel, right?" And the moment this woman revealed her true face, the stewardesses working in the first-class cabin and many other travelers shouted out in excitement at once. Obviously this woman was a star. When this angel heard the voices around her, she raised her chin condescendingly with contempt in her eyes and said coldly to Qin Fan, "You know my identity, I can understand if you want to sit with me, but I don't like to be with strangers, so please get out of the way." "Get out of the way." Qin Fan still said coldly and closed his eyes. When Angel saw Qin Fan's attitude, she was instantly annoyed and looked at her assistant, "Andy, fix it for me." Upon hearing this, Andy immediately took out a wad of money from his bag and said to Qin Fan, "You go over there, this $5,000 is yours." Qin Fan remained indifferent. When Andy saw Qin Fan's appearance, his teeth clenched in anger, while Angel looked angrily at Andy and chided, "If you can't handle this, you don't have to follow me in the future." "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats, the airplane is about to take off." Just at this moment, the flight attendant came forward and said to both Andy and Angel, "You let him up." Angel immediately gave the order when she saw this stewardess. I'm sorry, this young lady, this seat is this gentleman's. If this gentleman doesn't want to, I don't have the right to let this gentleman get up. This flight attendant said politely. Anyone who could sit in first class must not have a bad status, and she as a flight attendant wouldn't dare to offend any of the big shots. When Xin Fan heard this voice, he opened his eyes and glanced towards this flight attendant, a beautiful girl in her 23 or 24 years old. Angel gave the air stewardess a hard look when she heard her words and was ready to open her mouth to curse, but was stopped by Andy. Boss, it's about to take off, we can't hinder the airplane from taking off, wait until we get to the new country, then we'll make him look good. Andy advised after pulling Angel. And this flight attendant, I think she's very unprofessional. Angel looked at the flight attendant again and said coldly. Don't worry, none of them will be spared, they will be made to remember for the rest of their lives. Andy immediately said. After saying that, Andy and Angel sat down to the seats on the side. This stewardess looked at Angel, her face showed bitterness, she was just doing something according to her duty, but as a result, this star was so unreasonable. What's your name? Xin Fan asked as he looked at the flight attendant. When the flight attendant heard this, she froze and immediately said, Sir, my name is Yang, if there is anything you need during the journey, just order. Xin Fan nodded at this flight attendant and said, Is there a paper and pen? Yes. The stewardess answered, then immediately went to bring a pen and paper, and by the way, also brought some fruits, snacks, and drinks to Xin Fan. Sir, here is the paper and pen, and these please enjoy. Xin Fan picked up the pen and wrote down his contact number on the paper, then handed it to the stewardess. You can send a message or call me if you are in trouble. Yang froze for a moment as she listened, then politely took the paper Xin Fan handed over and said with a smile, Thank you, sir. And in her mind, she thought that the trouble she encountered was just not being an air hostess, while this gentleman in front of her offending this Angel was the big trouble. After all, the new country was Angel's home turf. After that, Xin Fan closed his eyes into a meditative state and waited for the airplane to arrive in the new country. Time passed, and at 6 p.m. or so, the airplane arrived at the international airport of the new country. Xin Fan leisurely walked out of the airport channel. Lu Ziyan had said that she would come to pick him up, but was rejected by Xin Fan. If Lu Ziyan came to pick him up, she would definitely let the top management of the new country know that he had come, and would definitely make a big scene. He wasn't interested in dealing with that. However, Lu Ziyan still sent a car over to pick him up and was already waiting at the airport entrance. When Xin Fan stepped out of the airport entrance, he saw 8 burly men in black suits gathering towards him, and these 8 men had bad looks on their faces. Xin Fan didn't even use his divine sense, just a sweep of his gaze, he saw a Rolls-Royce in the distance, and through the half-open window he saw Andy giving him a teasing glance before he closed the window and the car drove off. Kid, come with us. And at this moment, those 8 big men had already gathered around, while the leader was shouting at Xin Fan. Then you'll have to speak to the person who picked me up. Xin Fan said indifferently as he faced this big man. The person who picked you up? This big man sniffed disdainfully, it's useless for anyone to come. Is it? Only, just as this big man's words fell, an icy cold and incomparable voice came out. These big men immediately followed the voice and saw a middle-aged man wearing a suit looking at them with cold eyes. These big men froze in place when they saw the visitor. The new country had a population of 6 million people, which was not too big and not too small, and because of the Li family's position in the new country, the people within the new country would write down all of the Li family's people, so as not to offend the Li family's people who didn't even know about Edis for the visitor in front of them. They had already recognized him. This person's name was Li Donghua, a person from the Li family of the new country, extremely strong, extremely high status, appearing with Li Delong from time to time, with the purpose of naturally protecting Li Delong's safety. After these people recognized Li Donghua, they were already unable to speak, with nothing but panic on their faces. Lu Ziyan asked you to pick me up? Xin Fan asked when he saw Li Donghua. Mr. Xin, my name is Li Donghua, on Miss Lu's order, I came to pick you up, I just didn't expect that I would let you encounter this situation, I will take care of it properly. Li Donghua then said to Xin Fan, with endless tension in his tone. Li Donghua's only thought right now was to slaughter these 8 idiots. Xin Xian had come to the new country for the first time and ended up being threatened. Once this pissed off Xin Xian, did the new country even want it? Oh. Xin Fan responded, then said, let's go. Hearing Xin Fan's words, Li Donghua hurriedly made a gesture of invitation, humbly and incomparably inviting Xin Fan to get into a Maybach. And those 8 big men then went limp on both feet, all of them collapsed on the ground. They knew that they were finished. With Li Donghua's style, he would definitely not let them go. Chapter 386, Not So Lucky. A mansion on Nathan Road in New Country. This mansion was the most expensive mansion in the New Country, valued at 125 million rice dollars, more than 700 million summer dollars. The current owner of this mansion was Chin Fan. Of course, Chin Fan didn't even know that he had such a mansion in the New Country. This mansion was given to Chin Fan by the Li family in the New Country after Lu Ziyan came to the New Country. At this moment, Li Donghua drove his Maybach into the mansion. Lu Ziyan was waiting for Chin Fan to get off with a person. This person was no other than the president of the New Country, Li Delong. Li Delong's position in the New Country was that of an emperor, and a single word from him could make the New Country tremble. However, such a character was currently standing humbly at the side waiting for Chin Fan. Chin Fan. After Chin Fan got off the bus, Lu Ziyan walked to the side extremely naturally and naturally took Chin Fan's hand, saying, "I heard that you had an accident on the road. I told you, it's time to come and welcome the meeting." Didn't he solve it? Chin Fan glanced at Li Donghua, who was behind him, and said, "Mr. Chin, those people have been sent to prison and will never get out." Li Donghua immediately said. Chin Fan smiled and did not say anything more. "Chin Fan, he is the president of the New Country, Li Delong." Lu Ziyan naturally introduced Li Delong to Chin Fan. Lu Ziyan originally wanted to give Chin Fan a grand welcome party, but was refused by Chin Fan. However, Lu Ziyan still talked to Chin Fan and said that for his visit this time, some of the key members of the New Country, such as President Li Delong, definitely needed to meet him. Chin Fan felt that it was okay, so he didn't refuse. "Mr. Chin, last time, it was my brother and that sinful son who were unintelligent," Li Delong said warily when he saw Chin Fan. Li Delong was a 60-year-old man. He had seen many presidents and prime ministers. Even when he faced the president of Rice, Joe Byrne, he would not be so humble. However, he had to be humble when facing Chin Fan. After all, Chin Fan was a figure who could crush the Li family and even the entire New Country with his hands. Chin Fan glanced at Li Delong, nodded slightly, and without saying anything, he and Lu Ziyan headed inside. Li Delong and also Li Donghua followed behind. "Let him come over, remember not to make any mistakes, and prepare a thick gift," Li Delong, who was following behind, whispered to Li Donghua. Li Donghua nodded. He knew that what Li Delong was referring to was the second most powerful man in the New Country, the Cho family's head, Cho Lei. The Li family and the Cho family were the strongest allies. These two families controlled the New Country from top to bottom. For example, the Li family controlled finance and real estate, while the Cho family controlled transportation and electricity. For example, the Li family controlled finance and real estate, while the Cho family controlled transportation and electricity. It could be said that the people of the New Country could not live without the industries of the Li and Cho families. Soon, Chin Fan and Lu Ziyan walked to the mansion's restaurant, which had already prepared a sumptuous dinner. Chin Fan was still quite interested in the food on Earth, and eating pills all the time was actually quite boring. As for the filth produced after eating, he could cast the cleansing avatar and expel it directly. Soon, Chin Fan and Lu Ziyan sat down to dine, while Li Delong likewise accompanied them at the side to dine, then said something from time to time. "Mr. Li, there is no need for you to say anything with him. As long as you do your best for Chin Fan will definitely not treat you poorly." Lu Ziyan knew that Chin Fan was not listening to Li Delong at all and immediately spoke out. When Li Delong heard this, he immediately showed an embarrassed look and looked at Chin Fan. At this moment, Chin Fan was happily dining. Suddenly, Chin Fan raised his eyebrows before putting down his chopsticks. "What's wrong? It's not good?" Lu Ziyan asked with some curiosity when she saw Chin Fan stop. "No, it's that guy coming. I'm going out for a while," Chin Fan said to Lu Ziyan, then put down his chopsticks and headed out. Lu Ziyan heard Chin Fan's words and thought for a moment, then fiercely remembered who that guy was in Chin Fan's mouth. Wasn't it little Ching? After Chin Fan walked out, he immediately relied on his perception and walked out of the mansion, then turned a corner and walked to the edge of an artificial lake. Chin Fan's gaze swept towards the artificial lake and immediately rolled his eyes. He was surprised to see the shrunken Xiao Chang fishing for food in the lake. As expected, after little Chang woke up in the Japanese country, he followed Chin Fan's scent and ran to the New Country to look for him. "Come here!" Chin Fan shouted without any good humor. Little Green immediately leapt out from the artificial lake, flapped its small wings and flew to Chin Fan's side, flying around him with a pleasing face. "You gluttonous dragon, you even eat this kind of fish?" Chin Fan said without any good humor, then pulled out a piece of dragon fish meat and threw it to Little Green. Little Green opened its mouth and ate the thrown dragon fish meat, then flapped its wings cheerfully, obviously still wanting it. Xin Fan sized up little Qing. This time little Qing's appearance did not change much, only that the aura of the dragon race became more and more intense. This indicated that little Qing had already started the process of augmenting into a dragon. Only, this process is not known how long it will take. As the saying goes, 1,000 years to transform into an augur, 10,000 years to transform into a dragon. Moreover, this dragonization of Xiao Qing seemed to be a little different, with wings on its back. Suddenly, Xin Fan reached out with one hand and pinched Xiao Qing's neck. Xiao Qing's body immediately trembled as if he was electrocuted, then his eyes looked at Xin Fan pitifully. I say, you're not going to turn into one of those big lizard dragons in the west. Xin Fan looked at little Cheng and said. Little Cheng blinked, not understanding. Go away. Xin Fan didn't want to talk about it, letting little Cheng coil on his shoulder and walk back. The moment he walked back to the gate of the mansion, suddenly a Bentley drove over and stopped in front of the gate, blocking Xin Fan's path. Soon, the passenger door was seen opening, and then Xin Fan saw Andy, who he had met on the airplane during the day, actually running down and going to the back to open the car door. Immediately afterward, an old man in a suit, holding a walking stick, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, with meticulously combed hair, who looked to be in his early to mid-60s, walked down from the car. And beside the man was a woman in full dress. This woman with a haughty face was unexpectedly that Miss Angel. Daddy, the big man you said lives here, huh? Angel pouted at the man beside her. Right. This old man sighed. Daddy, what exactly is this big shot? Angel inquired curiously, completely not paying attention to Xin Fan on the side. Don't ask so much, perform well tonight, if you let this big shot take a liking to you, not to mention being the #1 superstar in Southeast Asia, being the #1 superstar in the world is not a problem. This old man then said. When Angel heard this, her eyes instantly caught fire. Go in. The old man said. After saying that, he led Angel towards the inside. Why are you here? Suddenly, Angel took a step and exclaimed in shock as she spotted Xin Fan. When the old man heard this, he immediately looked at Xin Fan in surprise and asked, Baby, someone you know? Not only was the old man surprised, even Andy was surprised beyond measure. How is Xin Fan okay? Are those 8 people trash? Daddy, didn't I tell you before that I met a guy who doesn't know any better on the airplane? This guy is him. Angel pointed at Xin Fan with one hand and said in an extremely godly manner, Young man, you don't seem to be very lucky to be met by us here. The old man said as he looked Xin Fan up and down. Chapter 387, He is my master. Not very lucky? Xin Fan was also a bit surprised to see these people. He also didn't expect to meet this Angel and Andy here, especially after hearing this old man's words. He asked with interest. That old man nodded and said, You're from Xia, it's normal that you don't recognize me. Recognize you? You are also worthy of letting me know you? Xin Fan said indifferently. The guy who doesn't know how to die, do you know who he is? Andy immediately spoke out when he saw this, wanting to speak out to introduce this old man's origin. Only, halfway through his words, he was stopped by the old man. No need to say it, some people are short-sighted, so they don't even know what the person standing in front of him really is. This is his loss, not mine. Mr. Cho is right, where does this kind of small person deserve to know your identity? Andy immediately said with flattering pats on the back. The old man, on the other hand, laughed and signaled not to waste time with Xin Fan. Going in to meet the big man was the most important thing. Daddy, you have to do it for your daughter. People rarely go to the summer country once to suffer from this guy's anger. This is a new country. If it spreads out that your daughter was bullied by a summer country people, that how to corrupt your reputation. Angel, on the other hand, was unforgiving and pouted at the old man. When the old man heard this, he reached out and touched Angel's pretty buttocks and laughed. Baby, isn't this an important matter today? When things are settled, you can teach him whatever you want. Angel heard, then laughed softly close to the old man and whispered, Daddy, Uncle Lou must be there. You ought to not let him first grab this guy and stuff him into the trunk. When things are over we'll teach him a good lesson. Ha ha. Upon hearing this, the old man let out a loud laugh. I'll listen to you. Saying that, the old man whispered a few words to the side of his collar, like a secret walkie-talkie, and after saying that, he immediately led Angel and also Andy towards there. Xin Fan did not move, but watched with interest as the 3 went in, wondering what the 3 would look like later. After the 3 went in, Xin Fan also walked towards the inside. Only, Xin Fan had just taken a step when a grey-clothed old man suddenly fell from midair and blocked in front of Xin Fan. Kid, you have offended someone you shouldn't have, and you still want to leave? This gray-clothed old man laughed morosely at Qin Fan. Qin Fan glanced at this old man and said, "Little Cheng." Little Cheng heard the order and instantly swept out as if it was a green-colored lightning. Without a single reaction, the gray-clothed old man felt a pain in his neck, and then a click sound of fracture came from him, blood shot out, and then his body fell to the ground, his eyes wide open. This gray-clothed old man, to death cannot believe, he was bitten to death. "A great master, Xiao Cheng want to eat?" Qin Fan asked as he looked at little Cheng who landed on the ground. Xiao Qing shook his head with a disgusted face, obviously feeling that this old man was not tasty at all. "Go inside." Qin Fan spoke to Little Green. Little Cheng immediately flew to Qin Fan's shoulder, coiled up his body, and went in with Qin Fan. Inside the hall, Lu Ziyan sat on the sofa as if she was a queen, while opposite her were Li Delong and Xiao Lei Miz. "Lu, you came to the new country. I've always wanted to pay you a visit, but I never found the opportunity to do so, so I finally got to meet you tonight," Xiao Lei said extremely politely to Lu Ziyan. Lu Ziyan looked at Xiao Lei and said with a smile, "Mr. Xiao, you don't have to be too formal, you are after all a close friend of Mr. Li." Xiao Lei laughed at this, then gave a look to Angel by his side. Angel hurriedly saw the needle and said, "Miss Lu, I'm Angel, I'm really honored to meet you, I've always been your fan." "My fan?" Lu Ziyan frowned slightly at the sound of her eyebrows. "I used to read fashion magazines all the time, Miss Lu's charm really fascinates me." Angel did not mince words in praising Lu Ziyan. Lu Ziyan used to be a model, and the fame is not bad, just now Lu Ziyan now this position is absolutely impossible to go back to modeling. Lu Ziyan smiled and said, "Miss Angel's songs and movies are very popular around Southeast Asia. Miss Lu, Angel is my daughter, in the future, if Miss Lu has the opportunity, take care of her more." Xiao Lei immediately laughed. Lu Ziyan smiled and said, "Mr. Xiao is a tycoon in the entertainment industry, where do I need to take care of it?" Angel listened to these people's conversations, especially when she saw Lu Ziyan laughing and joking with Xiao Lei and such a character as Li Delong. A trace of jealousy arose in her heart. Lu Ziyan really felt like a queen to her, and she was being blasted to death in every way. However, her own daddy had said that Lu Ziyan had this status because of that big shot behind her. It was all about accompanying people to sleep, she could too. Thinking of all this, Angel deliberately asked in a delicate voice, "Daddy, is that big shot you're talking about Miss Lu?" "Baby, of course Miss Lu is amazing, but that lord is Miss Lu's nobleman, and it's also because of Miss Lu that we can meet this big shot tonight," Xiao Lei hurriedly said. When Lu Ziyan heard these two people's conversation, she smiled and said, "He had something to go out for a while, he should be back soon, Mr. Xiao wait for a while." Just as Lu Ziyan's words fell, the door was pushed open and then Qin Fan walked in. Seeing Qin Fan walk in, Xiao Lei, Angel and also Andy's three faces changed drastically. "Why did you come in? Where is old Lu?" Xiao Lei got up violently and said in shock. Lu Ziyan's face immediately showed an odd color when she heard this and looked at Xiao Lei. Bitten to death by Little Green. Qin Fan, on the other hand, would faintly say this. As soon as these words came out, Lu Ziyan's pretty face turned cold as she looked towards Xiao Lei. "Mr. Cho, you seem to have some issues with my master." When these words came out, Xiao Lei was like a lightning strike, his scalp was numb, and with great difficulty he twisted his head to look at Lu Ziyan, his voice trembling, "Ms. Lu, just now, what did you call him?" "He is my master," Lu Ziyan said with an expressionless face, "that is, the person you've been wanting to meet." As soon as Li Delong heard this, he immediately realized that there must have been an accident, and then he remembered that Qin Fan had just gone out for a while, and then Xiao Lei came in from outside. In an instant, he had guessed what was going on, which made his heart lift up. And after Lu Ziyan finished speaking, she immediately got up and walked to Qin Fan's side nervously asking, "Master, did he offend you?" At this moment, Xiao Lei felt that the sky had collapsed. How could he not expect that the famous Qin Qingxian to appear at the door alone, and then mocked himself? The two people beside him, Angel and Andy, had already been scared out of their wits, as if their souls had gone out of their bodies. Where would they have thought that the person who was on the same plane as themselves was actually that big shot? If they knew, not to mention offended, Paste also wanted Paste in his side. And now, everything is finished. Chapter 388, Checking How Well You Are Practicing. Xiao Lei at this moment looked at Qin Fan in despair. He didn't know what to say. He had just asked his men to stuff Qin Fan into the trunk, preparing to teach him a lesson afterward. This was downright offending Qin Qingxian. This was looking for death. However, the desire for survival overpowered his fear, and he immediately looked at Li Delong on the side, asking him for help. Li Delong felt Qiu Lei's gaze and had some complications in his heart. It was true that the Qiu family was his Li family's ally, which allowed the Li family to firmly control the new country, but the Qiu family was also a constraint for the Li family. Right now, Qiu Lei had no dissent towards him, but when he died and the next successor of the Li family took control of the new country, would the Qiu family still be willing to assist the Li family? One generation will be willing, but what about 2 generations later? The Qiu family would not be able to stay under the leadership of the Li family for long. Thinking of all this, he gazed at Lu Ziyan and Qin Fan, and immediately had a decision in his heart, so he stood up and said respectfully to Qin Fan, Mr. Qin, I've been disturbing here for quite a long time, and it's affecting the meeting between you and Ms. Lu, so I'll take my leave first. No need to be so polite, I haven't thanked you yet for the bank and this mansion that you guys sent. Qin Fan looked at the respectful Li Delong then smiled lightly. Li Delong immediately shook his head and smiled, Mr. Qin is willing to accept these, that is our Li family's honor, and it is even more of an affirmation to us. Very good at talking, if you encounter anything in the future, you can look for Lu Ziyan. Qin Fan smiled at the words and said. When Li Delong heard this, he was overjoyed. What he wanted was this sentence. With this sentence, the new country Li family would have a big backer. Mr. Li, as I said, as long as you are willing to do your best for your master, the master will definitely not treat you poorly. Lu Ziyan looked at Li Delong and guffawed. Li Delong, on the other hand, was overjoyed and then said, then I'll leave first. After saying that, Li Delong took a step and walked towards the outside, completely ignoring Qiu Lei, whose eyes had despair in them. When Qiu Lei's 3 people saw Li Delong leave, they all turned pale and sweated like rain. Lu Ziyan, on the other hand, looked at Qiu Lei's trio and said, Mr. Xiu, looking at your appearance, it seems that you have a bigger problem with my master. As soon as Lu Ziyan's words fell, Qiu Lei instantly went limp and knelt on the ground, kowtowing to the ground, Mr. Qin, I deserve to die for my sins, I deserve to die for my sins. Lu Ziyan looked at Qin Fan, Master, what did they do to you? It's nothing much, it's just that there was a bit of a situation on the plane, off the plane, and just when they came back. Qin Fan said while stretching out his hand, while Xiao Chang moved, wrapping around Qin Fan's outstretched arm, entwining it, and then turned its small head towards Qiu Lei's trio, before grinning, revealing its tiny fangs. When Lu Ziyan heard this, she immediately understood, so she said, the things that happened on the master's way here, turned out to be related to you guys. Qiu Lei already didn't know how to explain, and with one hand, he yanked Angel over and said sternly, Bitch, why don't you kneel down? I'm wrong, Daddy, I'm wrong, I really didn't know that he was the big shot you said Angel knelt on the ground, with a pathetic look of weakness and helplessness, pleading for forgiveness. Only, no one could bail her out now. Bitch, it's all you, it's all because of you that I offended this honored person, I'm going to beat you to death, I'm going to beat you to death. Qiu Lei had already gone crazy, reaching out to Angel and smacking her hard. Slap slap slap. A sound of slaps came, smacking Angel's eyes, bleeding from the corners of her mouth, crying out to her parents, as miserable as she could be. Daddy, don't hit, I'm wrong. Angel, head cloaked, bleeding from the corners of his mouth, bitterly begged enough. Lu Ziyan fiercely and sternly stopped, don't do something to defile my master's eyes here, if you want to make a move, you guys would have died a long time ago. Qiu Lei heard Lu Ziyan's words and quickly let go of his hand, pleading, Miss Lu, and your excellency, it's all because of this fool that caused me to do this, I really have eyes that don't recognize him. Tai, please let me go. Lu Ziyan listened to Qiu Lei's plea and looked at Qin Fan. This matter, leave it to you. Qin Fan said and sat down on the sofa, teasing Xiao Chang. He really didn't have the energy to argue with these mole crickets, it was not as fun as teasing little Ching. Oh yeah, I remembered something. After teasing Xiao Qing for a while, Qin Fan suddenly remembered something and looked at Andy, who had lost his mind, and asked, I remember, you said on the airplane that one will not be spared, how are you going to not spare me? Andy heard this and instantly lost his soul, hated to smack his own mouth, how could he say such stupid words? Lu Ziyan's face turned cold when she heard this and said, it seems that you guys did do something amazing, even my master dared to threaten. And after she finished speaking, she clapped her hands. With that, a figure immediately appeared, naturally it was Chao Qingguan, who had been protecting Lu Ziyan. Miss, Master, what are your orders? Chao Qingguan said immediately after appearing. Deal with this person. Lu Ziyan said as she looked towards Andy. Without a moment's hesitation, Xiao Qingguan immediately struck out and slapped his palm on Andy's forehead, instantly turning him into a bloody mist. Xiao Lei and Angel were instantly horrified beyond belief when they saw this scene. "Miss Lu, please, spare me this time, I'm all because of this bitch." Xiao Lei begged frantically to Lu Ziyan. Angel on the other hand crawled to Lu Ziyan's feet like a dog, hugging her legs and pleading, "Miss Lu, please, spare me, I'm just a small entertainer, your status is so honorable, it's a disgrace to your status to bother with a bitch like me, as long as you spare me this time, I'm willing to do anything for you." Lu Ziyan expressionlessly looked at Angel kneeling at her feet and said, "Just now, were you jealous of me? Jealous that I have everything you can't imagine, and even, thinking that you got all this from sleeping with my master?" When Angel heard this, she froze in her tracks. Lu Ziyan was not some fool, and after practicing with Qin Fan, her senses became sharper and sharper. Therefore, she guessed what Angel was thinking when she deliberately asked her if she was a big shot earlier. After all, women understood their daughters better, and, when she was at the traffic circle, those girlfriends around her were also thinking the same way. No, absolutely not. Angel shook her head repeatedly. "A woman like you who is whole from top to bottom, how blind would my master then have to be to look at you?" Lu Ziyan said as she looked down at Angel. Angel was so emboldened by what she heard that she didn't dare to speak. "It's fine to spare you." Suddenly, Lu Ziyan revealed a cold smile and said. When Angel heard this, she looked at Lu Ziyan in surprise and asked with some disbelief, "Really? Really?" Lu Ziyan said with a smile. "As long as you are willing to spare me, I am willing to do anything." Angel immediately said in surprise. "Now, take off all your clothes." Lu Ziyan said indifferently. When Angel heard this, she was slightly stunned, and immediately thought of something, and immediately began to take off her clothes, thinking to herself, "This is to make me serve that big shot." Soon, Angel stripped clean and said, "Ms. Lu, I have." "Scram!" Lu Ziyan said with a cold face. Angel instantly froze there. "I'll give you 3 minutes now, don't roll if you don't." Lu Ziyan said with a teasing smile at Angel. "But I'm not wearing any clothes." Angel looked at Lu Ziyan. "I just want you to run naked for 5 kilometers, 1 meter less, and you won't see the sun tomorrow." Lu Ziyan continued, "Now, you can get lost." Angel looked at Lu Ziyan, she knew that the other party was not joking, and then she ran towards the door in a frenzy. Xiao Lei saw Angel running away with her bare ass, trembling with fear and trembling, he knelt there and waited for Lu Ziyan to send her down. "Mr. Xiao, you are also a dignified figure in the new country, so do 2 things for me." Lu Ziyan looked at Xiao Lei and said, "Miss Lu, you can just say it." Xiao Lei immediately said. "First, I want to see the report of Angel running around naked on the major media in the new country tomorrow." Lu Ziyan said. When Xiao Lei heard this, his heart thumped. Sure enough, women are the best at punishing women, this is even more ruthless than killing Angel. Of course, he wouldn't pity Angel at all, and immediately said, "Don't worry, I'll immediately have my media do it." Secondly, it's very simple, 90% of the Cho family's industry, all of it will be transferred to my master's name within 5 days. Lu Ziyan said indifferently. Xiao Lei's face turned white when he heard this, and he looked at Lu Ziyan in shock. The Cho family was second only to the Li family in the new country, possessing a huge amount of wealth, totaling more than 150 billion meters of gold. This was taking away 135 billion meters of gold assets in one go. This was a slash on the Cho family's aorta. Unwilling? Lu Ziyan saw Xiao Lei, who was in a state of shock, smiled and said, "When I first met my master, he said something, want to hear it? Please. Please speak." Xiao Lei said. "Master said that if he makes a move, it's all of it." Lu Ziyan said with a smile on her face, "Maybe, it will also exterminate the clan along the way." "Oh. I understand, I'll do it now." Xiao Lei immediately said upon hearing this. "Then go and do it," Lu Ziyan said. Xiao Lei immediately ran out with a crawl. After Lu Ziyan saw Xiao Lei leave, she then sat on Qin Fan's lap, wrapped her hands around Qin Fan's neck, and said in a petulant manner, "Master, how did I do? You really want to come up with it, letting a woman go and run naked outside? I, at most, will kill, you did a good job." Qin Fan looked at Lu Ziyan and laughed. "Then do you want to reward me?" Lu Ziyan looked at Qin Fan with charming eyes. Seeing this, Qin Fan picked up Lu Ziyan in a princess hug. "Tonight, I'll properly check how well you've practiced." Chapter 389, Dealing with a Snake? The next day, at the airport of the new country, in front of a private airplane, Qin Fan and Lu Ziyan as well as people from the Li family were present. Because the flight from Xia to new country had caused Qin Fan to encounter some unpleasant things, this time, Lu Ziyan had arranged for Qin Fan to travel to Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, on a private jet. The legendary star state was that area of Indonesia, and as for the exact location of the ancient immortal trail, it was in the millions of kilometers of sea over there, only that the exact location was not known at the moment, and it seemed that the news of the appearance of the ancient immortal trail had already been circulated, attracting quite a number of exploratory teams and people with powerful strengths to come. This is the contact address of the expedition team over in Jakarta. Before Qin Fan boarded the airplane, Lu Ziyan gave Qin Fan the contact information of an expedition team. This expedition team is the best one in Southeast Asia as well as the South Pacific. Trying to find the exact location of the ancient immortal ruins on top of millions of square kilometers of sea was very difficult, so an expedition team was needed to act as a guide, and the one that Lu Ziyan had found for Qin Fan was of course the best expedition team. Qin Fan took the contact information and nodded, then said, "I'll take little Cheng over there, you continue with your work." "I understand, when things are settled over here, I'll head to Tianjin City. It's time for the construction of the city over there to begin." Lu Ziyan nodded with a smile at Qin Fan. The preliminary preparations for the heavenly Qin city were almost complete. It was time to start the official construction, and Lu Ziyan would have to reside in the heavenly Qin city by then. "Good," Qin Fan responded, then took Xiao Qing on board the private airplane and headed to Jakarta. About 2 hours later, the airplane landed at the airport in Jakarta. Jakarta was the capital of Indonesia, a bustling city with a population of nearly 30 million. After Qin Fan exited the airport, he boarded a special car to head to the expedition's compound. Soon, Qin Fan arrived at the expedition team's compound. "Are you the Mr. Qin introduced by Miss Lu?" A local wearing short sleeves and glasses received Qin Fan right. Qin Fan responded, then asked, "When can we leave?" This one sniffed and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Mr. Qin, are you willing to team up with someone?" "Team up?" Qin Fan frowned at this. "What do you mean?" "Mr. Qin, recently, because of some visions appearing, there are a lot of people coming to explore, and our expedition team is the undisputed number one, so there are a lot of people who want us to be a guide, and before that, we have already taken Miss Lu's commission, and we have pushed all that we can. It's just that, there is one guest that we really can't push, so, we can only form a team now." This local manager said somewhat apologetically to Qin Fan. "It can be done." Qin Fan responded, "I just want to leave early." "Good." This person immediately revealed a look of delight upon hearing this. "I'll take you there, and you can depart right away." After saying that, the man led Qin Fan to meet up with the expedition team. "Mr. Qin, that guest status is very honorable, don't offend the other party when you arrive, or else according to our Indonesian law, it will be punishable by capital punishment." On the way, the local man cautioned Qin Fan in a low voice. "Honorable status?" Qin Fan frowned at his words. "That honorable measurement lady is the president's daughter, don't be rude in front of her." The man hurriedly explained. Once Qin Fan heard this, he sort of understood that this expedition team could only take on the other side's mission. The president was the highest head of state in Indonesia, and if the president's daughter didn't take it, this expedition team wouldn't want to live in Indonesia. Soon, Qin Fan met up with the people of the expedition team, and among these people, Qin Fan met that president's daughter. The other party was probably only 20 years old, dressed in an English style, somewhat like a female knight, with a rather good appearance, not the dark skin of the locals, but fair skin, and exuding condescension in her eyes. "He's the person from Xia you guys are talking about?" This president's daughter saw Qin Fan and showed a reluctant look on her face. There had been a tragic Xia exclusion incident in Indonesia's history, so there was some rejection of Xia people, so after seeing Qin Fan, this president's daughter was naturally a bit reluctant. However, after she swept a glance at Qin Fan, her gaze quickly fell to little Qing on Qin Fan's shoulder. At the moment, little Qing was squinting her eyes and lying on Qin Fan's shoulder, while the pair of small wings were closed, like a cute little lazy worm. This appearance immediately attracted the woman. However, this attraction was very short-lived, and soon turned to Qin Fan and said through disdain, "The place of this expedition is a mysterious island that appeared because of an anomaly. What's on it is unknown, and it can be said that it's extremely dangerous. Aren't you afraid of death?" "Mysterious island?" Xin Fan was slightly surprised. Not bad, this island originally did not exist, but not long ago, there was an earthquake, and then this island appeared above the sea because of a mysterious force, and it is because of this that it will be dangerous up there. If you don't want to die, it is better to go back earlier. This woman looked at Xin Fan and said disdainfully, I am also here because of this. Xin Fan said, Just you? The woman snorted disdainfully, then said coldly and proudly, Let's put it this way, if you can defeat my men, I'll agree to your participation, otherwise bringing you as a burden, better not follow. After saying that, a big man with a strong body and dark skin walked out. This big man raised his hands and feet with a strong aura of power, his eyes were as sharp as eagles, he was an innate realm martial artist. His name is Tang Han, he is a member of the Indonesian Special Warfare Unit. If you can defeat him, I'll let you participate. The woman looked at Xin Fan playfully and said. The man who had brought Xin Fan here was anxious when he saw this, and wanted to speak out, but he didn't dare to offend the president's daughter, so he could only keep making eyes at Xin Fan, hoping that he wouldn't do anything too drastic. Indonesian Special Forces is Indonesia's elite troops. Inside the team members that are killing people, only the president's daughter of this status can make the call. Xiao Cheng. Xin Fan looked at the other party, did not move, just shouted. When the originally lazy little Cheng heard this, she immediately straightened her body. Little Cheng was now in a shrunken state. Even if she straightened up her body, it was only half a meter long, that pair of small eyes glaring at Tang Han though, her small wings flapping, milky and fierce. What do you mean? You're going to let this pet you've raised to deal with Tang Han? That president's daughter's eyes were wide with disbelief, looking at Xin Fan as if she was looking at an idiot. Although it was true that small snakes with wings were extremely rare and were considered to be exotic beasts, but to let this little thing deal with a strong man, wasn't this being funny? It was even more of an insult to other people's intelligence. And that for Tang Han's face was also disdainful that he had to deal with a snake. Chapter 390 Boarding the Island. However, while Tang Han was still disdainful, his face changed violently because Little Green swept out as if it was a green-colored lightning, and pounced straight at Tang Han. Tang Han reacted quickly, reaching out to pinch Little Cheng, only Little Cheng's movements were even more rapid, instantly curling around Tang Han's hand. Ka-ching! Then a breaking sound came. The moment Little Cheng curled around Tang Han's hand, it immediately twisted Tang Han's hand off, and then the little body immediately loosened up and flew back to Xin Fan's shoulder, once again transforming into a little lazy worm. Oh! Tang Han, on the other hand, let out an agonizing sound as his body exploded back, cold sweat pouring from his forehead, but he was after all an innate martial artist, and endured the intense pain of the severed hand, not screaming out seeing this scene, whether it was that president's daughter or those other bodyguards and people from the expedition team. All of them had been dumbfounded as they looked at the little green on Xin Fan's shoulder. How could they not think that that tiny little flying snake that was no more than half a meter long was so terrifying? More to come? Xin Fan reached out and touched Little Green, a sort of compliment, praising Little Green for knowing how to be merciful, or else he would have bitten the other party to death in one bite. Seeing this, the president's daughter's face was a bit ugly, with anger in her eyes, obviously irritated by Xin Fan. And this time, an old man came over and whispered a few words to this president's daughter. This president's daughter instantly glanced at the incarnation of the lazy worm like Xiao Cheng with glowing eyes, then said, It's okay, you can participate together. Xin Fan smiled without saying anything. Of course he heard the words of that old man. Miss, that flying snake, it is likely to be a foreign beast. I'm afraid that this appearance is not its real face. Innate martial artist is not an opponent. To be able to see that Xiao Cheng is not ordinary, this old man is very discerning. His strength is not weak, he is a grandmaster expert. Just this strength, not to mention in Xin Fan's eyes is a mole cricket, in Xiao Cheng's eyes is also a mole cricket that does not deserve to be used as food. After waiting for a while, the woman spoke out, Let's set off. The group was led by the president's daughter to the harbor. On the way, Xin Fan learned that the woman's name was Anissa, the youngest daughter of the current president of Indonesia, with the blood of a Xiao Chinese. After arriving at the harbor, this was when the dignity of Anissa's identity became apparent. This harbor was not a civilian harbor, but a military harbor, and in order to board that mysterious island, this president's daughter had directly commandeered a military ship. Under Anissa's leadership, the crowd boarded the warship. And on top of the warship, there were a number of young men and women, all of whom were Anissa's friends. Anissa and her friends in Indonesia all came from powerful families, and they usually didn't live a stimulating enough life, so from time to time, they liked to explore and look for excitement. This time, an island suddenly popped up in the sea, so as soon as Anissa got the news, she started to gather people and even used army personnel to go exploring. Anisha, who is that person? After Qin Fan followed Anisha on board the warship, a tall man of Xia descent asked Anisha in confusion after seeing Qin Fan, "He looks very thin and weak already. This kind of person is just a burden to bring along, right?" "His name is Qin Fan, a person of Xia nationality," Anissa said. "This Qin Fan is indeed very ordinary, but did you see that little winged snake on his shoulder? See? There's something interesting about this little snake, huh? It even has wings? Could it be a genetic mutation?" This man immediately said. That little snake was very powerful and easily twisted off one of Tang Han's arms. Anissa told what had just happened. The surrounding children of those powerful nobles were filled with incredulity as they listened. "Is this little snake so powerful? Where did it come from? Do you think it can be bought with money? Even if it's tens of millions of dollars?" These powerful sons and daughters spoke out in surprise, and some even wanted to buy the little green with money. That flying snake should be an exotic beast, or there is a real possibility that it's a creature that has been genetically modified by black technology, and those who can raise this kind of creature. It's estimated that this Qin Fan is the son of that big family in Xia. The Uncle Zhao, who was protecting Anissa, then whispered. This Uncle Zhao's real identity was a person from the Zhao family, an Indonesian martial arts family, who was responsible for the security of the Indonesian president and his wife on weekdays, and his status was very high. However, this time, because of Anissa, he was sent by the Indonesian president to protect Anissa. Therefore, everyone present was in awe of this Uncle Zhao. And what he said naturally convinced the crowd. The son of a great family from the Summer Kingdom? The crowd's gazes looked towards Qin Fan, who was sitting on the other side. Only, after the crowd carefully sized up Qin Fan, they couldn't possibly tell that Qin Fan had that kind of etiquette and recuperation that was unique to a great family. They could just tell that Qin Fan was sitting casually, holding a piece of dried fish in his hand and teasing this little green. There are plenty of opportunities to test him in this expedition to the island, Anisha said indifferently as she looked towards Qin Fan. The crowd nodded at her words. Soon the warship set sail, and after about half a day, the warship entered a guarded sea area. And within the cordoned-off sea, many Indonesian warships could be seen out and about, inspecting the incoming and outgoing ships, and it seemed that only some of the permitted ships could proceed onward and approach the mysterious island. As for Anissa's side, naturally there was no such problem, as they were on a military ship, so it was completely unimpeded. Soon, the warship approached a huge island, but after docking, since it was already night at the moment, it was obviously not a good time to enter. Therefore, after docking, everyone didn't disembark, but instead prepared all sorts of things on the ship and waited until dawn to officially board the island. "You're not preparing anything?" While everyone was preparing their things, Anisha noticed that Qin Fan didn't do anything at all and just leaned there with his eyes closed, so she asked curiously. "No need," Qin Fan said. Anisha almost didn't get angry when she heard this. This person really just came to mess up as a burden. If not for the face of that foreign beast flying snake, she would have thrown Qin Fan off the boat. So, Anisha also didn't bother to pay attention to Qin Fan, and went to prepare herself. The next day, the crowd officially began their exploration of the mysterious island. Immediately after stepping onto the island, a primitive and wild atmosphere came over them. Everywhere were large trees. The entire island was like a lush primitive forest area. The entire island can be said to be a primitive forest. The crowd forward but a few hundred meters of distance, encountered not on the poisonous insects, ferocious snakes. However, Anissa, these people are adventure veterans, and this time also do enough preparation, so it is not difficult to defeat them. Soon, after half a day of traveling on the island, the people chose a place with higher ground and relative safety to rest, while those bodyguards were extremely skillful in setting up tents, and then took out the compressed food they had brought to replenish their energy. Qin Fan, who had long been at the late stage of Yuaning realm, was not in need of eating. However, Xiao Qing kept shouting on his shoulder, obviously sensing that there were delicious food on the island. Moreover, he didn't want to be seen to not need to eat such a thing, so he got up and scurried into the woods with Xiao Qing. Chapter 391. Strong people like clouds. After about 10 minutes or so, Qin Fan caught two animals that looked like roe deer in appearance, which were quite large and more than a meter long. Qin Fan then peeled the skin and cut the pieces under the astonished eyes of the crowd and began to grill them. Qin Fan's most precious bottle contained a large amount of cooking seasonings, all left over from the time he handled the dragonfish meat, and then with his craftsmanship, these two animals that looked like roe deer were roasted with the aroma of meat. Anisha and these people watched with their mouths watering. "Miss, this person seems to be an expert in wilderness survival," a bodyguard from the special operations team said to Anisha. "The children of those big families in Xia are bound to travel the world if they have cultivation. it's just that this Qin fan, I can't feel any true qi from him at all. He should just be immortal, but I can't see through it at all." Uncle Zhao frowned and said, "Whatever, if we go any deeper into the island, he will definitely reveal himself," Anisha said with disdain. As for Qin fan, he ate some of the roasted meat himself, and gave all the rest to Xiao Chang. Qin fan had to say one thing about the gluttonous snake. After eating and drinking, the crowd continued to go deeper, wanting to go deeper into the core of the island, whether there were any strange discoveries. While Qin fan followed leisurely with Little Green, while catching some wild game from time to eat, what rabbits, pheasants, and even caught some big fish. This could shock Anissa and the others. They didn't know what was going on this island. How could there be so many wild animals? However, the most unbearable thing was watching Qin fan and Xiao Qing feasting there. "This brother, this is 100 meters of gold, how about buying a fish with you?" A Xiao descendant named Wang Dong came over and looked at the grilled fish in Qin fan's hand that he really couldn't stand. "Not for sale." Qin fan responded and then took a bite of the grilled fish. $1,000. Wang Dong immediately raised the price. "I said, not for sale." Qin fan answered and continued to eat. "You!" Wang Dong's eyes immediately flared up, wanting to go and grab it, but when he saw Xiao Chang who was devouring it, he could only hold back, and finally said, "Just wait, there will be a time when you beg me." After saying that, he left. In fact, it doesn't matter if Qin fan himself eats it or not, the important thing is that Xiao Chang, this guy is too gluttonous. If it is taken away, Xiao Chang is bound to protect the food and go up to snatch it back. After Wang Dong came back resentfully, Anissa asked, "What's going on?" "He is not selling?" "Anissa, that guy really doesn't know how to raise his price. I've raised the price to $1,000 and he won't even sell it," Wang Dong said indignantly. When Anissa heard this, her face turned ugly and she said coldly, "When he's in danger, don't think about us saving him." After that, the relationship between Qin fan and Anisha's group turned extremely bad, with not a single exchange between the two sides. Qin fan was naturally happy to be clean, even he had wanted to leave the group himself to search the island quickly, but the gluttonous snake beside him was really rowdy and went looking for food every now and then. Qin fan could only accompany Xiao Cheng as he scurried around, grabbing things to eat, and in the meantime seeing what was going on with the island. In the process, Qin fan discovered some remnants of formations left on the island, which allowed him to deduce that the island didn't appear out of thin air, and was probably hidden above the sea because of the leftover formations. Recently, because of the earthquake and the formation had reached its limit, it had failed and the island had reappeared. The people explored the island for 2 days before stopping at a huge rock that was like a platform. "That should be the core of the island over there, right?" Anissa pointed not far away. There was what looked like a valley, and in the valley, it was surprising to see some ruins. "This island is really interesting, with such a large area. Why was it not discovered until now? Couldn't the satellites even take a picture of it?" someone said strangely. "Yeah, and the ecology on this island is very complete, many animals can be seen, it's really strange," another person said. The crowd nodded their heads. The group walked without encountering any dangers, but they were surprised by the island's scenery. This place really was a primitive forest. "Let's go to that valley and take a look," Anissa said. Everyone nodded and prepared to set off. "Wait." Only this time, Uncle Zhao suddenly stepped in to stop it. "What's wrong?" Anissa asked in disbelief. Just as Anissa was puzzled, the sound of an eagle's chirping came from the sky, and then all of them looked towards the sky, and then everyone revealed a shocked look. The crowd saw a huge eagle in the low altitude skimming, and even more peculiar is the eagle's back actually stood in a person. The person on the eagle similarly discovered Anissa and her group, then jumped off the eagle's back and landed in front of the crowd. It was a withered old man. "Zhao Sang greets the Eagle King." As soon as this person landed, Uncle Zhao immediately moved forward and said respectfully, and with this action, Zhao Sang immediately made Anissa and the others not dare to utter a single breath. "Zhao Sang? The bodyguard of the Indonesian president?" Eagle King asked with a frown on his brow. "Precisely under me," Zhao Sang immediately said. "In that case, I won't kill you guys." The Eagle King spoke indifferently. After saying that, he rose up into the air and once again returned to the eagle's back, disappearing. "Uncle Zhao, who is he?" Anissa asked immediately after seeing the person leave. "He is the Eagle King, one of the 4 strongest men in Southeast Asia. If it wasn't for the fact that we are His Excellency, the President of Indonesia, I'm afraid that we would definitely die." Zhao Sang gave a bitter smile. When the crowd heard this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Eagle King, that was a top 10 assassin on the dark list and one of the 4 strongest in Southeast Asia. Zhao Sang was not an opponent at all. Uncle Zhao, how did he come here? Eagle King should be in Malay. Anissa asked somewhat oddly. Zhao Sang sighed and said, Miss, there have always been rumors that this island has ancient immortal traces, and now that the Eagle King has appeared, it is highly likely that this rumor is true. When the crowd heard this, they immediately revealed a look of amazement. It seems like we've really come to the right place this time. We might be able to discover something fun. Anissa said. Miss, it may not be true. If a strong person like the Eagle King appears, then other strong people will also appear. I think it's better for us to leave as soon as possible. Zhao Sang said. No, we've come all the way here. We definitely need to go in and take a look. Anissa said. The crowd nodded, so the crowd continued to advance, but because of the Eagle King's appearance, the people's advance became cautious only. After the crowd approached the valley at the core, they could only be described as shocked. Because on top of this island, they encountered many strong people. For example, Thailand's king of Muay Thai, Shakun, Philippine knife Jace, India's master Samba, South Korea's king of legs, Kim Jadong. These were all famous heavenly ranking strongmen, and there were even many dark ranking top 10 assassins. It can be said that on top of this island there are strong people like clouds. Chapter 392, He is Qin Xingxian. Anisha's heart was about to jump out of her chest as she approached the core of the island. This was because the people who appeared were each and every one of them an existence that made them unattainable. Every one of these people was a powerful person on one side, and every one of them was a figure that made the heads of state of Southeast Asia treat them as their guests. Ms. Anisha, we'd better go. Wang Dong said with a voice that trembled as he looked towards Anisha. Originally thinking that this sudden appearance of the island would give them a surprise adventure experience, which was a surprise, this was a shock. The person in front of them could kill them at any time. Go? Anissa looked at Wang Dong. With so many big shots gathered together, there is bound to be something earth-shattering happening. Don't you think it's a pity to leave now? Anisha loved exploring for the sake of finding excitement, and now that it was in front of her, leaving now would inevitably miss out on the earth-shattering events, and perhaps even the things that happened today would affect the entire world. The crowd nodded their heads as they listened today. There was a real possibility that they would witness something that would change the world happen. Inside is the ancient immortal trail, right? Just as Anisha and these were in a moment of shock, a voice faintly rang out. Along with this voice, Xin Fan walked forward and looked down. Below was a huge open space, which was surrounded by many peaks, forming a huge valley, and within the valley, many ruins could be seen, which were all remnants left behind by the ancient buildings. There really is a formation. Xin Fan looked down and opened his eye of true vision, immediately seeing through everything in the valley, and said in his heart. Within the valley was draped with aura, which had converged because of the formation in the valley, and a protective shield was formed after these auras converged. And all this, and Xin Fan expected the same, this island has always existed, only because of the reason of the big array on it, isolated from the world. Modern technological means cannot be found, and close to the ship, but also because of the protective array and deviated from the course. Now the array has been broken almost, only the core place. And with the protection at the core place, it was impossible to enter without the strength of a grandmaster. Anisha, why are you guys here? Just at this moment, a thick voice suddenly came from the back of the crowd. Anisha immediately turned her head after hearing this voice and looked towards the person who spoke. After seeing the person who said it, Anisha immediately opened her mouth with an incomparable surprise. Uncle Manon, why are you here? Manon didn't answer, but instead said sternly to Anisha, this is not a place where you can come, hurry back. Uncle Ma, it was so hard for me to come here, how can you bear to drive me back? Anisha ran forward and pouted. It's dangerous here. Manon said. Uncle Ma, you are the #1 strongest person in Indonesia. I heard from my dad that you are extremely equals all half-step god realm. How could it be dangerous with you around? Anisha continued to pamper herself. Manon faced Anisha's pampering and said with a face full of helplessness, alright, don't leave me later. Great. Anisha gave a joyful cheer, her eyes looking towards Xin Fan on the side, showing some complacency. Manon was an Indonesian admiral and the #1 strongest man in Indonesia. Only Xin Fan simply ignored him. This made Anisha a little angry, and turned to Manon again and asked, Uncle Ma, I heard my dad say that you're off on an important mission, so how come you're here? Coming here is the mission. Manon said. Uncle Ma, could that rumor be true that there really is a so-called ancient immortal trail in here? Anisha immediately asked. That's right. Manon said seriously, otherwise, there wouldn't be so many strong people coming. And at the moment he spoke, the silhouettes around him grew. Ancient immortal ruins, the only immortal ruins that have yet to be controlled by the Xia country's ancient immortal descendants, it's actually hidden in the sea, truly the heavens have helped me. The ancient immortal ruins must have the method to achieve the passing god, or even the method to become a legend realm. Many of the powerful people who had converged here looked down at the bottom of the valley, their faces showing greed. The ancient immortal ruins were closely related to the ancient immortal descendants, and these immortal ruins had the cultivation methods for achieving the god realm or even the legend realm that cultivators sought, and this was the purpose of their coming. Because in this world, I'm afraid that the only immortal ruins that have not been grasped by the ancient immortal descendants of the Summer Kingdom is here. However, don't you guys find it strange? The ancient immortal trail has always been regarded as a private possession by the ancient immortal descendants of the Xia kingdom, so the news of the ancient immortal trail coming out has never been blocked. And the moment this island appeared, a large amount of news about the ancient immortal trail was released. This is bound to be wrong. At the same time, there were quite a few strong people who spoke out with some doubts. The ancient immortal ruins were too precious, and everything inside would be recovered by the ancient immortal descendants of the Xia kingdom or fall into the hands of the Hall of Gods. However, from the moment the ancient immortal ruins here appeared, the news had spread throughout the cultivation world, as if it was trying to lure people to come. Could it be a trap? The ancient immortal trail that all belongs to the god realm, or even legend realm powerhouses in their pockets, great masters like us are no different from ants in the eyes of these people. To lure us here is making a mountain out of a molehill. Many people guessed that this was a trap, while others countered that there was no point in setting this kind of trap at all. Is it because you want to deal with some god realm powerhouse and want to lure him here? Suddenly, someone thought of something and spoke out. Such a big battle, in order to lure one person over? What level of powerhouse would that person have to be? When the crowd heard this, their hearts were appalled. If it was really to attract one person to come, how terrifying would that person's strength be? Could it be to deal with that god-ranking number 1 powerhouse, Qin Xian? Thinking of this, another person spoke out. And with this utterance, it was as if many people were awakened. That's not right, isn't Qin Xian already dead? No one has seen Qin Xuan's body. The news of his death was just unilaterally released by the United States of America. I don't know if it's true or not. That's right, news and messages from the United States of America are not even believable in terms of punctuation. It's likely that the news was released because the United States of America couldn't deal with Qin Xian. Yes, it's highly likely, and this time, it's to attract Qin Xian to come into the trap. To deal with one person with such a trap, come to think of it, the only one who could do so was Qin Xian, who had been in the limelight for some time recently. Otherwise, no one else, not even that god, I'm afraid, would be worthy of using such a shocking trap. Uncle Ma, who is the Qin Xian they're talking about? Anissa asked curiously. A supreme powerhouse who stirs up the wind and clouds of the entire world, a powerhouse that anyone who sees him would need to bow down and listen. Manon took a deep breath and said. Anisha's eyes instantly lit up when she heard this and asked, Uncle Ma, have you seen Qin Xian? I was present during Qin Xuan's battle in Japan, but I wasn't able to see his front face. I only hastily glanced at the side of his face. Manon said with a look of regret on his face. Anisha immediately longed for Qin Xian when she heard that. What are you doing? Do you want to seek death? Don't come back yet. Suddenly, an alarming voice came from not far away, causing Anisha to return to her senses. And then, Anissa saw Qin Fan walking towards the bottom of the valley, and immediately shouted with incomparable anger, Don't you know what's going on? Want to go and get yourself killed? When Manon heard Anisha's voice, he then looked over and immediately said unhappily, Anisha, is that your companion? And at the moment he spoke, the other powerhouses had also noticed Qin Fan. Kid, what are you doing? Looking for death? Don't know how to die. Do you know what kind of people are present? Those who came here as great masters spoke out, and some even took a shot at Qin Fan. Only to see that a male eagle swept towards Qin Fan, the Eagle King struck out at Qin Fan. Really looking for death, having a flying snake fey, you think you are invincible? Zhao Sang shook his head and said disdainfully. He won't implicate us, right? After all, we are the ones who brought him here. Wang Dong said. This is his own death, it has nothing to do with us. Anissa immediately said. Those of Anissa's people nodded their heads when they heard this, and at this moment, the Eagle King rode his eagle to the top of Qin Fan's head. Then with a fierce leap, he landed in front of Qin Fan and shouted at him, "Kid, you." Only, the Eagle King had just uttered the word "you" at the moment. He froze there, and soon his face changed into a color of horror, then his body retreated back and forth, and then he knelt down on the ground and kowtowed to Qin Fan again and again. "Your Excellency, I didn't know it was you, please spare my life." The Eagle King knelt on the ground and kowtowed his head to Qin Fan with a thumping sound, continuously uttering words to beg for mercy. What happened? Why is the Eagle King suddenly kneeling down and begging for mercy? Many people noticed the Eagle King's behavior and, filled with odd faces, looked at Qin Fan. The moment they saw Qin Fan's true face, many of them physically moved and rushed to Qin Fan's body, bowing to him. Thailand Kunchai, pay respects to Your Excellency. Dud of the Philippines pays his respects to Your Excellency. In an instant, the voices bowing to Qin Fan in obeisance rose and fell. What the hell is going on? Anissa froze in a flash. It's him. Surprisingly, it's him. At this moment, Manon's position was just enough to see the sight of Qin Fan's face, and in an instant, he also rushed out and came to Qin Fan's body, bowed and said, "Late generation Manon, I have met Your Excellency, I didn't expect Your Excellency's visit, please forgive me." All this made Anisha look dumbfounded, even her Uncle Ma bowed respectfully to Qin Fan. What is going on here? Anisha asked as she couldn't stop shaking her head. "Miss, it's him, and only he would be carrying a snake." Zhao Sang suddenly spoke out. "Uncle Zhao, who exactly is he?" Anissa asked anxiously. "Once upon a time, he took 6 God Realm powerhouses and fed them to a large snake in Tianjin City. Once, he defeated Oda Shinjen at the top of the Japanese kingdom. Once upon a time, he purged the East Asian Rice Army base in one night. At one time, he suppressed the world's most powerful nation to bow down." Zhao Sang kept speaking at this moment, his words filled with admiration. At this moment, Anissa had already heard who he was. He's Qin Xingxian. Anissa said in a trembling voice. Chapter 393, Strong People Arrive. Qin Xingxian. This name was actually very unfamiliar to Anisha. She had only just heard those strong men present discussing it, and her uncle Manon had told her in general that Qin Xingxian was someone who made even the #1 strongman in Indonesia worship him. This had caused her to have visions. Now, as she watched those strong men who made her fear Qin Fan kneel down, the only he she could think of was Qin Xingxian. How could it be? How could it be? Why would Qin Fan be Qin Xingxian? Although it was Anisha herself who had said Qin Xingxian, she still had no way to believe that the Qin Fan she was traveling with was the Qin Xingxian who had shocked the world. But now, one after another powerful person who made her unattainable saluted Qin Fan, but kept telling her that Qin Fan was Qin Xingxian. During the battle in Japan, many powerful people in the world had come, especially those from this area of East and Southeast Asia. All of them had traveled to Japan and witnessed that battle, and many of them had seen Qin Fan's true face as a result. Therefore, these people would definitely not recognize it. "Miss, there's absolutely no mistake, only this Qin Xingxian can make these people bow down. I really didn't expect. He's right by my side." Zhao Sang said to Anisha. The emotions in his heart could be described as complicated. When Anisha heard this, her shell teeth clenched, shy and annoyed. She remembered how ignorant she had been in her contempt and disdain for Qin Fan along the way. What does this Qin Xingxian mean? He's so powerful and he's acting like a weakling. Is this teasing us? Anisha gritted her teeth and said. Probably, people like us are no different from ants in his eyes, so he doesn't care about us at all. Zhao Sang said. And when these words came out, it was as if they poked Anissa and these people in their lungs, making the faces unsightly. Along the way, what Anisha did, in Qin Fan's eyes that was nothing more than a jumping clown, not even a clown could still make people laugh. And they didn't even make Qin Fan care at all. At this time, Qin Fan faced the person kneeling in front of him and asked, "Who was it that said I was looking for death just now?" No, Your Excellency, it was me who said it wrong, spare my life." That Eagle King kowtowed to the ground nonstop, kowtowed with such a thud that if not for his Grand Master realm cultivation, his forehead would have been smashed. I'm afraid at the moment the Eagle King kowtowed, the huge eagle he raised was restless, it did not have any spiritual intelligence, it did not know who Qin Fan was. Seeing that the master did not order, it could not help but swept towards Qin Fan with a fierce swipe. However, this beast was not close to the moment. Suddenly a huge green figure appeared, and then all of them saw a bloody mouth open and bit this huge eagle into its stomach. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Gut-wrenching chewing sounds came from the crowd, causing the faces of those present to be stupefied, not daring to utter a single breath. This was because the crowd saw at this moment a terrifying beast with wings on its back, nearly 50 meters long, resembling a snake rather than a snake, and resembling a dragon rather than a dragon circling around Qin Fan. They knew that it was this green-colored foreign beast that had once eaten 5 God Realm powerhouses. Everyone present was filled with longing for the God Realm, only that very few of them were afraid of being able to enter the God Realm. Only, those God Realms were merely food for this foreign beast in front of them. This eagle has become Little Green's food, do you have a problem with that? Qin Fan asked the Eagle King. No, absolutely no opinion, it's that beast's honor to become this lord's food. The Eagle King said in a hurry. That male eagle had a strange bloodline that the Eagle King had obtained from a forest relic and had raised for more than 20 years, and was strong enough to be compared to a beginner Grandmaster realm expert, but, can he have an opinion about being eaten? If he had an opinion, I'm afraid that he would also become food for this foreign beast in front of him. Get out of the way, I'm going in. Qin Fan didn't want to waste time with these people, he wanted to go in and take a look at the ancient immortal trail. A clan that could lay down a great formation that could isolate an island from the rest of the world was bound to have something peculiar, and there were bound to be quite a few useful things inside. Your Excellency, the ancient immortal trail has always been a private forbidden place for those God Realm powerhouses, but after this place appeared, we, Indonesia, have been trying to block out the news, but this news has spread all over the world. The crowd stepped aside after hearing Qin Fan's words, but Manon didn't step aside, but bowed and said to Qin Fan, I know what you want to say, it's nothing more than someone trying to lure me here. Qin Fan said as he looked at Manon. When the crowd heard this, their faces changed and they looked at Qin Fan in shock. But so what? Qin Fan said indifferently. Shen, you really have good guts, coming even when you know there's a trap. Just as Qin Fan's words fell, a majestic voice suddenly came from within the sky. And then the crowd watched as a strange hexagram formation appeared above the sky, and immediately afterward, this figure emerged from within this formation. This was a middle-aged man wearing black armor, carrying a pair of pitch-black demonic wings on his back, and holding a pitch-black scepter in his hand. God Realm! When the crowd saw this middle-aged man who stepped out from within the spell formation, they immediately showed shocked expressions. King of Hell, Baal has come to pay respects to Your Excellency Qin Shen. At this moment, Baal hovered in the air looking at Qin Fan and said indifferently. When the crowd heard this, they immediately looked horrified. Baal, the leader of Hell, known as the King of Hell, was now ranked 3rd on the God ranking. Qin Fan gazed at Bear and asked indifferently, You have come to die? Qin Shen, you are indeed powerful, killing my Hell Demon God and killing Oda Shingen, with strength like yours. If I were to fight alone I would definitely not be as good as you, but since you already know that it's a trap, I'm sure you're also aware of the fact that this time around, it's definitely not going to be me alone. King of Hell Baal said solemnly. Roar! Just at the moment Bear's words fell, a roaring sound came. This is the sound of a dragon roar, could it be? When the crowd heard this sound, their faces changed and they vaguely already guessed who was coming. Sure enough, along with the roaring dragon roar, a huge dragon flew in from the distance, and on the back of the dragon stood a man with blonde hair and blue eyes, holding a golden longsword. Night King, Arthur. That's right, it's Arthur Pendragon. The crowd couldn't help but exclaim in shock after seeing the visitor. The person who came was no other than the 4th strongest person on the God ranking right now, the leader of the X organization's Dragon Knights, and even more so, the king among knights, Arthur Pendragon. Just the 2 of you, not to mention dealing with me, even Xiaoqing is not enough to eat. Qin Fan said indifferently. Then let's see who eats who. And as Qin Fan's words fell, a strange and majestic voice came out, which seemed to be formed by the convergence of many voices. Along with this voice, the crowd was stunned as they saw 8 snake heads as big as locomotives rising from within the forest, and then they saw huge bodies as long as 100 meters rushing out from the valley, the evil creature in the mythology of the Japanese nation, the Orochi. In an instant, a strong person from the Japanese kingdom had recognized the origin of this monster. The Orochi, the Faruiji. Shortly after the Yamanano Orochi rushed out, his body shrunk and transformed into a middle-aged man covered in pitch-black scales, while his hand held a pitch-black scythe. Faruchi, come to collect your debt. Farluji said as he revealed his human body, the pair of snake eyes staring at Qin Fan with murderous intent. When the crowd saw the 3 that appeared, they were all shocked beyond measure. These 3 that were all super strong among the God Realm, and now the 3 were trying to surround and kill Qin Shen. Not enough. Only, Qin Fan shook his head and said, what about adding me? As soon as Qin Fan's words fell, a crisp voice resounded, and then a woman came through the air with her sword and landed in front of the crowd. Another strong person appeared. Chapter 394, Joining Hands to Surround and Kill. A green-colored sword broke through the air from afar, and on top of the Yuan, there was actually a woman, flying an imperial sword and finally landing in front of the crowd. This lady was dressed in white ancient Xia clothing. Her appearance was upper middle class, but her body had a mature charm, making many strong people look a little infatuated. Coming with a sword, are you from the Yellow Emperor's Yi clan? Arthur Pendragon saw the woman and then asked. That's right, my name is Yin Yan. Yin Yan faintly voiced out. Yin Yan? Just as Yin Yan's words fell, an old voice came out, but the wife of that sword immortal of the Yi clan? When the crowd heard this pale voice and looked around, they saw an old man wearing a golden red robe, who had appeared at King Arthur's side at some point. This old man had a head full of white hair, his eyes were turquoise and deep, his face was pale, and he stood in the void as if he had merged into heaven and earth, making it difficult for people to notice. If he hadn't made a sound, I'm afraid no one would have realized his existence. This was definitely a god realm powerhouse who had cultivated his arts to the extreme. Your Holiness the Pope, I am just a concubine of the sword immortal. Yin Yan smiled at this old man with a slight bow. The moment these words came out, everyone was shocked. Yin Yan's words revealed two extremely shocking pieces of information. This old man is the Pope of the Holy Synod? My goodness, that magical extreme strength Many people were shocked beyond words at the old man's could be said to be shocked beyond words. The Pope of the Holy Synod of Europa, what an honorable status, and more importantly, this Pope's strength was extremely terrifying, proficient in all kinds of magic, and could be said to be the topmost of the magical powerhouses. The Pope is nothing, haven't you heard of the Yi family sword immortal? That's a legendary realm powerhouse. Yi family sword immortal, hundreds of years ago that was the #1 powerhouse that shook the entire world. If it wasn't for the fact that he had gone into seclusion, wouldn't God have ascended to the #1 spot on the God ranking? Who exactly is the Yi family sword immortal you guys are talking about? Haven't you ever heard the saying, Yi family Yi Wu Shuang, unrivaled in the world? Only, the most shocking thing was Yin Yan, the concubine of the Yi family's sword immortal. Of course, it was not Yin Yan but her master, Yi family sword immortal Yi Wuxuan, that attracted the people. Yi Wuxuan was the #1 person in the sword Dao 300 years ago, sweeping the world with one person and one sword, leaving behind countless legends. Only, one day he got tired of being invincible and chose to go into seclusion. And now, his concubine's strength was already comparable to that of Arthur in these powerhouses, so Yi Wuxuan's strength must be extremely terrifying, and must already be in the realm of legends. Yin Yan's face was calm as she listened to these people's admiration for her master, Yi Wuxuan, as she looked at Qin Fan and said indifferently, Xin Xian, your grudge against our Yi family will end with your head today. Qin Fan looked at Yin Yan and said with a smile, just the 5 of you want to take my life? It's more practical for you guys to go and dream. Xin Xian, you are indeed as arrogant as the rumors. Just as Qin Fan's words fell, a low voice came from the distance accompanying this voice. The originally light blue sky suddenly overflowed with bloodlight, as if the sky was dyed red with endless blood. And underneath the blood-stained sky, a crimson bloodlight swept through the void, finally stopping in midair, and a figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This figure was wrapped in brown bat wings, only revealing a demonic and incomparable face. Blood Count, Dracula. This is the 5th strongest person on the God ranking, the Blood Count, Dracula. This Count Dracula has fallen into slumber for years, his strength is extremely terrifying, even he has come. Many people exclaimed out in shock after seeing the visitor. The visitors was no other than the Blood Count Dracula. Qin Fan looked at Dracula and felt the aura of a blood demon. It was the same as Catherine, only this Dracula's strength was way too much stronger than Catherine's right now. This Dracula was already a supreme powerhouse at the peak of the God realm. You're a blood race like Catherine, right? I don't seem to have any grudges with the blood race. Qin Fan looked at Dracula and said. It's true that you don't have a grudge against the blood race, but with the oracle of the blood god, I had to come. Count Dracula looked at Qin Fan and said calmly. Qin Fan nodded and said, so is there anyone else? If there's no one, don't talk nonsense and start the fight. Xin, just how much strength do you have? How can you still be so confident in the face of 6 peak God realm powerhouses? As soon as Qin Fan's words fell, an icy cold female voice suddenly resounded. In the moment this voice rang out, a powerful sound fluctuation stirred in the void, shaking many people back and forth, and many of those who were weak even held their heads and let out sounds of pain. At the same time, a golden light shot from afar, as if the sky of the island was torn into 2 halves, and even because of this golden light flying, the entire island was slightly trembling. Finally, this golden light stopped in midair, and a stunning woman with blonde hair and blue eyes holding a golden lance and wearing golden armor appeared in front of the crowd. Who is she again? What a terrifying aura, just a mere sound carries such a terrifying pressure. What exactly is her origin? The hearts of many people trembled as they looked towards this stunning blonde. This woman, with the aura she emitted alone, let all of them know that this person was extremely terrifyingly strong. God, you're late. Arthur Pendragon said as he looked at this golden-colored woman. I casually killed some people on the way, so as not to make people think that the god of the divine punishment actors god didn't put up a fight for many years, so they think it's good to be bullied. The god said indifferently. Her words were calm, but they exploded like a heavy bomb, causing the brains of those present to buzz. This woman was actually the god of the divine punishment actors. This god had been on the god ranking for an unknown number of years, until Qin Xin came out of nowhere, and only then did he become the number one on the god ranking. It was only after Qin Xin came out of nowhere that he became the number one on the god ranking. 7 God Realm Supreme Powerhouses, this is truly a setup to kill Qin Xin. We're just wretches who were lured here by bait. The crowd present all sighed out when they saw the appearance of this god and confirmed that this was an ancient killing game set up to kill Qin Xingxuan. Only Qin Xingxian could make these 7 supreme beings of the divine realm join hands and lay in an terrifying 1,000-year-old killing game. Qin Xingxian was in danger. You're the last one, right? Xinfan looked at God and asked. God looked at Xinfan and said, Qin Xingxian, it is true that the 7 of us joining hands to deal with you is a bit of a victory, but this is also because you are too strong beyond the expectations of the gods, and even destroying the balance, so this world cannot tolerate you. The god faced Xinfan and unapologetically stated the reason for joining forces. Qin Xingxian, you are too strong, you must join forces and surround and kill you. All of you are here, so let's cut the crap. I will make all of you become food for Shao Qing's evolution. Xinfan said in a cloudy voice as he faced these 7 people roar. On the other hand, Little Green let out a dragon roar that resounded through the clouds, which was in anticipation of Xinfan feeding him. Indeed arrogant enough, now let me see how much strength you really have, Qin Xingxian. The god let out a cold shout, the golden lance in his hand boomed, and a terrifying god realm pressure stirred out. And the other 6 also blossomed their own terrifying aura at this moment. In an instant the entire earth shook as if the end had come. Chapter 395, Killing You Guys Like Chickens. Not good, quickly go. Run be involved will die. Those who were onlookers could only frantically flee outwards in the face of the pressure erupting from the 7 strongest god realms of the world. The strength of these 7 people was just too terrifying. Those were all peak god realms, and the might that erupted was truly as if the end had come. The entire island shook. These great master realm powerhouses that came here were no different from ants when facing these 7 people. Once they were caught up, they would surely die. Hurry up! Manon came to Anisha's side and shouted, or you will die. Anisha and these people had already been scared to the point that their feet were soft in the face of the terrifying pressure, and they all wanted to fall to their knees, so where would they have the strength to run? When Manan saw this scene, he could only forcefully take Anisha away. He couldn't care about the others. Uncle Ma, that Qin Xingxian, what will happen to him? Anisha was carried on Manon's back, looking towards the back. Qin Xingxian is very strong, it's just that he's facing 7 of the strongest god realm powerhouses in the world. There's almost no chance of him surviving. Manon said helplessly. When Anisha heard this, she didn't know whether to be happy or sad. Xinfan was invincible in the world, and Anisha wanted to see him suffer, and now that Xinfan was in danger, she somewhat didn't want anything to happen to him. Therefore, she was in a very screwed up state. Forget it, after all, we've known each other for a while, it's better for you to survive. Anisha sighed leisurely. And over there, Xinfan, facing the siege of 7 people, calmly said to Little Qing, just flash aside and wait for the food. Upon hearing this, Little Qing roared twice, his body then shrunk, and ran far away in a puff of smoke. Little Green's cultivation was at the god realm, probably mid-god realm, and with his powerful physical body, his strength was comparable to late god realm. This was quite strong, but facing these 7 people, it really wasn't enough. This pet of yours should be an augur, but with 2 wings on its back, I'm afraid it's an alienated species. If it can be brought back to the Holy See and fed with the liquid of the Holy Grail, it will metamorphose into a giant dragon in time. It's just a pity. William III looked at the departing Shao Chang and sighed. What a pity, everyone knew. With Little Green's departure, there was no more obstruction. Those 7 people no longer suppressed their breath. A monstrous breath surged out crazily, intertwined, like a vast sea appeared above Qinfan's head. The vast ocean surged and swept, centered on the 7 people, forming a huge vortex. This was not just an invisible aura, but it also attracted the power of heaven and earth. There were boulders that were caught up in this rotating vortex and instantly turned into pieces. These 7 people surrounded each other like a 7-maned array, and the core of this 7-maned array was Qin Fan. Qin Fan stood in the center, bearing the pressure of the 7 strongest God realm powerhouses in the world, only that his face remained cloudy and light, as any monstrous pressure that came in front of him would disappear in an instant, as if nothing had happened. Qin Xian, it is precisely because of you that we have joined forces. Bear slowly spoke. Qin Xian, you are really strong, and you should be honored for making us have to join forces. The Pope said to Qin Fan. The Pope represented the holy, and was at odds with Bear, but because of Qin Fan, the 2 powerhouses had joined forces. Qin Xian, say any more last words, I can convey them for you. With a wave of the pitch-black scythe in his hand, a black aura slashed through, leaving a crack in the void. Haha, last words? Qin Fan laughed at his words. Naturally, there are no last words, but I have a word to say to you. What words? Yin Yan asked. Killing you all is like killing a chicken. Qin Fan said faintly. And as his words fell, his right hand reached out in the air and grabbed towards the Pope who was facing him. Instantly, a huge palm shadow appeared, tearing apart the intertwined breaths of the 7 God realm powerhouses. Not good. This hand grab by Qin Fan instantly caused the 7 to change color. The palm shadow that appeared from this casual grasp was like a mountain crushing down in the eyes of these 7 people, and that vast breath crushing down caused the 7 people's blood to roll over, almost spitting out blood. Damn, how could this Qin Xian be so terrifying? Yin Yan lost her color for an instant. She had never seen such a terrifying monstrous might erupt from this casual grab by Qin Fan. We can't let him act recklessly. Arthur Pendragon roared loudly. In an instant, the sword of victory pledge in his hand blossomed with a brilliant golden sword aura, and a powerful sword intent swept out with it with a roar. Arthur took the lead in chopping out the oath of victory sword in his hand. Instantly, a golden sword light burst out from the sword, transforming into a terrifying pillar of astounding light. As the pillar of light appeared, a terrifying roar resounded, as if a shocking cannon was firing to blast a hole in the sky. It's the holy sword verdict. Some of the powerful people watching from afar recognized this terrifying sword of Arthur's. This was a peerless sword skill that had been passed down by the Dragon Knights for thousands of years, and it was incomparably powerful, and countless Western sword skills had also been derived from this sword skill. And Arthur Pendragon cast the power is even more powerful, because he has the King's sword intention, plus the Oath of Victory sword, the power is even more. More than 30 years ago, when Arthur was in West Asia, he participated in the elimination of terrorists, and chopped out the Holy Sword verdict, raising a town of 50,000 people to the ground, and none of the ordinary people inside were spared. That sword, which could be said to be earth-shattering, made countless people in the world realize Arthur's fearsomeness. Humph. And the Pope snorted disdainfully, his right hand clenched, and a scepter appeared. This was the Holy Scepter of the Holy See, which was inlaid with 7 jewels that increased the power of magic. Aurora Storm. The Pope faced the incoming palm shadow, raised the scepter in his hand, without any magic chanting, pointing towards the front in the air. The 7 gems above the scepter shone at once, and at once white auroras shot out crazily, transforming into countless auroras blades, and then forming a huge aurora storm crashed fiercely towards the big hand. Hell Karma Fire. On the other side, King of Hellball also struck at this moment. The pitch-black scepter in his hand pointed in the air, and in an instant, a pitch-black hellgate appeared before opening with a loud bang. The moment the hellgate opened, the monstrous hell karmic fire transformed into a gigantic demon that covered the sky and killed towards Qin Fan. Blood Blade Vault. That blood Count Dracula similarly struck out. A bright red blood blade appeared and swung in the air. Instantly the blood-colored blade light coalesced and chopped towards Qin Fan as if it was tearing the sky. Clang. Finally, a sound of a sharp sword coming out of its sheath came. The sword immortal's concubine Yin Yan also struck out. She drew out her 3-foot green peak. A radiant sword light, like a lightning bolt of silver, shot out from her hand with vigor, and after the first strike, it instantly crossed over 100 miles and chopped towards Qin Fan. Yuan Luji figure floating, unexpectedly split into 3 branches. These 3 branches violently leaped, from 3 directions to kill Qin Fan, in the hands of that fit scythe toward Qin Fan. Qin Fan's lifegate chopped gun of God. The god let out a low shout. The golden divine spear in his hand turned and stabbed forward. Instantly golden light spilled over Qin Fan's sky. A huge golden divine spear tore through the sky towards the assault. At this moment, the strongest 7 god realm powerhouses of the world had struck, and the moment they struck, they were killing moves, not giving Qin Fan a single chance to kill him completely. Chapter 396, Destroying the Devil. The 7 strongest 7-god realm powerhouses of the current generation struck out together. This kind of might was bound to shake the heavens and the earth. The faces of those powerhouses hiding in the distance changed abruptly. Manan, the strongest man in Indonesia, was hiding in the distance with Anissa, and his heart trembled when he saw this terrifying might. Any one of these 7 people could slap him into mush with a casual strike, but now they had joined forces together to launch an attack. I'm afraid this is the strongest power in the world. These people are all in the top 10 or even top 5 of the god ranking, where one of them isn't stepping into the heavens and chopping off gods, one person pushing a country sideways, and now it's 7 people joining hands. This one is truly destroying the heavens and destroying the earth. This Qin Xingxian will surely die in the face of this strike. It's a pity, the newly born number 1 on the god ranking is going to fall. Many strong people were staggered. The attack of the 7 people joining hands was just too terrifying. Even though they had already dodged more than 1,000 meters away, they were still shocked by the power that radiated out. Strong, it was just too strong. Under this kind of terrifying attack, any of Qin Fan's attacks would be of no use and he would surely die. Only, facing the 7 people's joint attacks, even some of the bombardments had already bypassed Qin Fan's big hand towards his physical body, but Qin Fan was as if his face was bland, and he even didn't care about those attacks at all, and still cared about himself with one big hand grasping towards the Pope. Boom! Qin Fan's large hand print grabbed forward and collided with the Aurora Storm and the Holy Sword Verdict, and a roaring sound came out. Whether it was the Aurora Storm or the Holy Sword Verdict, all of them crumbled under his devastating handprint. And after that handprint crumbled, the attack, it still carried the destructive power and grabbed the Pope with a thunderous momentum. The Pope's face changed abruptly, wanting to cast magic to dodge, only, the palm print contained a power that he could not resist at all, suppressing him and making it impossible for him to move in the next instant. Qin Fan's large handprint captured the Holy Synod's Pope, and as soon as he clenched his handprint, the Pope let out a mournful and incomparable scream. At the moment when the Pope let out a miserable scream, the other 5 people's attacks had also bombarded on top of Qin Fan's body. Boom! The 5 terrifying attacks bombarded Qin Fan's body, emitting an earth-shattering roar, and everything seemed to be destroyed under this joint strike. Everyone thought that under this strike, Qin Fan would surely die. Little Qing, proceed. Just a faint voice suddenly rang out. This immediately startled the crowd, only to see, with a wave of Qin Fan's great hand seal, the already half-dead Pope William III, who had been pinched with one hand, was thrown out. Then, a large green-colored auger was seen leaping up in the air, opening its bloody mouth and swallowing William III in one bite. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. A gut-wrenching chewing sound followed. Everyone just watched as that Pope was chewed up by Little Green and then swallowed into his stomach before spitting out a scepter. As for, Qin Fan appeared unharmed in front of the crowd. God, Yin Yan and the others looked at the unharmed Qin Fan with stupefied faces. The 5 attacks had strictly bombarded Qin Fan's body, and Qin Fan was unexpectedly unharmed, and even his clothes were not broken. They had truly been shocked in their hearts and simply did not know what to say. The 7 people had joined hands to deliver a killing blow that even a legend realm powerhouse would find it difficult to withstand. But after Qin Fan took it harshly, he was actually unharmed. This terrifying strength of Qin Fan had far exceeded their knowledge. Surprisingly, it's okay? This is impossible. It's too terrifying. This Qin Xingxuan's strength is just too terrifying. The hearts of those powerhouses hiding in the distance shook, simply unable to believe that Qin Fan was unharmed. If I wasn't worried about smashing the ruins here, I would have destroyed all of you with a single sword strike, Qin Fan said indifferently as he swept his gaze over the stagnant 6. His purpose of coming here was to meet the divine Gnome clan's ancient immortal ruins, and if he was too ruthless with his own hands, he might not be able to destroy even the ancient immortal ruins under his strike. But, it's also good, feeding you guys to Little Qing is a good use of your resources, so who's next to eat? Qin Fan grinned and exclaimed. And as his words fell, Little Green violently let out a dragon roar while it aimed at Far Luji. Clearly this gluttonous dragon held a grudge. It's you! Qin Fan said coldly as he looked towards Far Luji. At the sound of his voice, Qin Fan once again grabbed out with one hand, and instantly a large handprint that covered the sky and the sun suppressed towards Far Luji. Yuan Luji faced Qin Fan's large handprint that came from the suppression, felt a vast incomparable power suppression, immediately let his face change, immediately countless black gas surged out, in an instant turned into 100 meters long Yamanuki serpent true body. He obviously wanted to use his real body to fight against Qin Fan's palm, only, but found that he couldn't resist it at all. Then he begged for mercy. Let me go, I can work for you just like that auger. I already have a scaly skull, What's the use of needing a broken snake like you? Xin Fan said with disdain. The large handprint that covered the sky also ruthlessly slapped down on Far Luji's body at this moment under one palm. The Far Luji was slapped half dead, and after that, the gigantic snake was grabbed by Xin Fan and thrown to Xiao Cheng. Xiao Cheng did not have any ambiguity, biting fiercely, instantly breaking his snake's neck, causing Far Luji to continuously emit a mournful cry. Far Luji at this moment really some regret, why he went to chase this augur, now become the other party's food. Xin Fan resolved Far Luji with a sweep of his gaze and looked towards Arthur, saying in a low voice, "You're next." Arthur's face changed, raising the sworn sword of victory in his hand and preparing to answer the enemy, only, Xin Fan grabbed out a hand seal as he did, immediately grabbing Arthur along with his mount dragon, pressing hard, pressing it half dead, and threw it to Xiao Cheng. Xiao Cheng did not even think about it, a mouthful of Arthur swallowed, issued a crunchy sound, as for the dragon will be eaten later. In a short period of time, 3 God Realm powerhouses were captured by Xin Fan and became his pet's food, instantly making everyone tremble and fear. Destroyed, this Qin Xian is too terrifying. Too terrifying. Those who were hiding in the distance from the strongest had not dared to look at it, and had lowered their heads and voiced out. As for the remaining 4, their faces were grave to the extreme. They had already tried to overestimate Qin Xingxuan's strength this time, which was why the 7 of them had joined forces. But now that this Qin Xingxian had revealed his strength, he really was destroying everything. It really was as he said, killing them like chickens. Qin Xingxian, we still underestimated you, your strength is truly terrifying. Yin Yan said gruffly to Qin Fan. Qin Xingxian, I have no grievances or enmity with you, I just came by the oracle, so let's end it here. Dracula's demonic face with terror in his eyes said to Qin Fan. Qin Xingxian, I've underestimated you this time, let's stop the war here. Bear's face was grave to the extreme as he voiced out. Qin Xingxian, how about we call a truce? From now on, we won't seek trouble from you again. The god also spoke out, wanting to reconcile with Qin Fan. Only, Qin Fan turned a deaf ear as his 2 fingers turned into sword fingers and a golden liquid sword intent flowed out. Qin Xingxian, it seems like you must fight to the end, so we can only lay down our lives to fight, God spoke out. With God's utterance, they knew that today was bound to be a matter of death for you and life for me, there was no turning back, so they wouldn't hold back anymore. Strike together, the next thing he performs is bound to be an earth-shattering divine ability. Yin Yan let out a low shout as her figure swept and transformed into a green-colored sword blade shooting towards Qin Fan. This was her transforming her body into a sword, this was a life-sacrificing strike, the power was terrifying and incomparable, no one within the divine realm would ever be able to withstand it, and they would inevitably die together. King of Hell. Bear let out a low roar, the pair of demonic wings violently opened up, and with that, his figure transformed into the form of the King of Hell, bringing the hell flame towards Qin Fan. Again, it was a life-sacrificing strike. Dracula, on the other hand, transformed into a huge blood bat, the bat's entire body was filled with bloodlight, transforming into a blood-colored light and rushing towards Qin Fan where the color of blood passed, the bloodlight rose up to the heavens, like a blood-colored flame burning, to burn everything to the ground. Hall of Gods. God let out a whisper, the golden spear in her hand vibrated emitting a humming sound, while above her body was a divine light that shone brightly, reflecting the sky. Behind her, the shadow of a magnificent palace appeared, emanating vast divine power from within the palace, just like the gods descending. In the next moment, God brought the shadow of the palace of gods and killed towards Qin Fan. Big Dipper divine sword technique. Qin Fan faced the attack of the 4 and chopped with his sword finger. The sword divine skill was executed, drawing the power of the 36 Heavenly Dipper, and that golden liquid sword intent transformed into 36 Heavenly Dipper stars in an instant. Only these stars were in sword form. These 36 sword astral deities chopped down, and with a destructive force, they shattered the shadow of the Temple of Gods, the green sword awnings, as well as the Scarlet Bat and the King of Hell, and then the sword astral deities ruthlessly pierced into the bodies of these 4 people. These 4 people's eyes were wide open, their breath failed, and they smashed down towards the ground, dying on the spot. Qin Fan fought 1 against 7, and with a destructive force, he killed all 7 of them. Chapter 397, A Battle That Shakes the World. All 7 of them were one person against a peak God realm powerhouse of a country, and although this person couldn't face Xia, Mi, and Xiong, Mi, Xiong, and France, such powerful countries, but for those small and medium-sized countries, any one of these 7 people would be able to push them across. It was such a powerful 7 who had joined forces to surround Qin Xingxian, and now all of them were dead, becoming food for Qin Xingxuan's pets. Moreover, what was even more terrifying was that Qin Xingxian had slaughtered these 7 people in a devastating manner. What kind of terrifying power was this? What exactly is the origin of this Qin Xingxian? Exactly which family or power can cultivate such a character? Too terrifying. Is there anyone else in this world who can deal with him with this strength? These people's hearts shook, having been shocked beyond words by the strength that Qin Fan had displayed. He's too powerful too. Anisha covered her mouth and hid in the distance, simply unable to believe that the person she was traveling with was as powerful as this. When she thought about it, she couldn't help but have her hair stand on end because she hadn't given Qin Fan any good looks while traveling with him. You are no different from an ant in his eyes, he won't even remember you. Manon, who was on the side, seemed to have seen Anisha's mind and said. When Anisha heard this, her mood turned complicated. Not being noticed by Qin Fan meant that she wouldn't be remembered, which she felt was a good thing, but being regarded as a mole, she felt stifled. To be noticed by such a powerful figure was bound to be an honor. It was just that, as Manon said, how could anyone pay attention to mole crickets? After this battle, I'm afraid that the entire world is going to change. Manon said as he looked at the battlefield, unable to hide the horror in his heart. The other powerhouses were similarly grave, not saying a word as they thought darkly in their hearts. The strongest 7 divine realm powerhouses had joined forces, but they had ultimately died in Qin Xingxuan's hands, and the spreading of this matter was bound to shock the entire world. More shocking than shocking was the fact that it would trigger a change in the entire world. One must know that these 7 powerhouses could all be said to be suppressing one party, and now that they had fallen, it would certainly trigger an imbalance in the forces of the world's nations. For example, 3 of them were the leaders of the 3 major X organizations, and now that all 3 leaders were dead, it meant that the 3 major organizations were overthrown. From now on, there were only 2 major X organizations in the world, all of which were in Xia. This would inevitably cause an imbalance in the strength of the East and West. Once the imbalance was created, no one could predict what would be triggered next. As Manon said, at this moment, the Pentagon in the United States of America is dead silent. At the moment the god personally went to hunt Qin Xingxian, the United States of America will certainly always be concerned. They used a variety of black technology drones, as well as satellites, always paying attention to everything on this island. They believe that with God going to war, but also united 6 of the world's strongest god realm powerhouses, will certainly be able to hunt Qin Xingxian. Even the United States of America has long allowed the media to prepare a notice. As long as Qin Xingxian is dead, Strong big public opinion machine immediately announced that the United States of America to complete the revenge, to the world to announce that the United States of America once again WLN. However, when the image came to the moment, the generals in the Pentagon or the President of the United States of America within the White Palace, all silent. Their gods died, and they also watched as the gods were eaten by Qin Xingxuan's pet. The corners of the mouth of the President of the United States of America, Joe Bayshore, twitched and finally uttered, "What should we do?" And the moment he asked the question, all the other officials lowered their heads. Even God was dead, and they didn't know what to do. Or, the only thing they could think of was to utilize black tech nukes to devastate that island. Only, doing so would inevitably result in a reaction from Xia's side. Then what follows is a devastating war. What they, the capitalists, wanted to see. A war that couldn't make them money was meaningless. Could it be that we can only wait for the gods within the Temple of Gods to strike? Joe Bish could only say with trepidation in the end. The summer country, this side also received the news at the first time. The mysterious island had appeared, and the Summer Kingdom had long ago dispatched the intelligence forces of the Eight-View Palace to keep an eye on it. It was just that the news that came back was just too shocking. Qin Xingxian. Even if Qin Xiang's city was even deeper, he had already been shocked by the news that had come back. Hell, the Dragon Knights and the Divine Punishment Substitute were precisely the 3X organizations that were the hardest to deal with in the Summer Kingdom, and every time there was a battle between the East and the West, the Jade Void Palace as well as the Bayou Palace had to face these 3X organizations. They dreamed of wiping out these 3 major organizations. And now, Qin Fan had destroyed the leaders of these 3 major organizations and killed them to feed them to his pets. Xiang, this time, Xinguisher's killing spree can give us, Xia, a lot of benefits. It's just that I'm afraid that the future will become unpredictable. However, at the time of the shock, a middle-aged man spoke out. This man wore gold-rimmed glasses and had a scholarly appearance. Old man Baiying, have something to say. Xiao Huanger said immediately as she looked at this man. 8 scenic old man? The man's mouth corners twitched when he heard this name, wanting to have a seizure, but thinking about Xiao Huayer's strength, he could only stop and said, "You can't just call me Uncle Zhou." Xiao Huayer on the other hand said with a smile, "Quickly say business." This old man of the 8 scenes was named Zhou Qinghong, the head of the 8 scenes palace, in charge of intelligence gathering. This time, the strongest god realm in the world has all fallen. This will definitely shock the entire world. Besides shocking the world, it will definitely also make those behind the scenes have to look at Qin Wushi squarely. What will happen then can't be predicted, Zhou Qinghong said, full of worry. "Old man buying, you can't just say it straight." Xiao Huayer rolled her eyes, feeling that listening to this person talk was listening in vain. Zhou Qinghong glanced at Xiao Huanger, full of helplessness. Strength is very strong, but it seems that he will not think too deeply about things. He can only open his mouth and say, "The strength that Qin Wushi showed will certainly make the people behind the curtain really square up, and at that time, it will no longer be an agent, but will have to go down in person." That makes sense to me. It's just that those people in the Hall of Gods who call themselves gods are going to personally go down and won't be sending an agent god. Xiao Huanger immediately said those who truly understood the strength of the West knew that the West had a powerful organization behind it that had been passed down for an unknown number of years, the Hall of Gods. The Arthur that Qin Fan had killed or the god were actually agents of the Temple of Gods in this world. And they are standing high outside the world, with agents to control the whole world, let the world in accordance with their preconceived ideas forward. However, now these agents have been killed by Qin Fan, and I'm afraid that Qin Fan's strength is meaningless in sending any agents. Then, the probability was that the Hall of Gods would come down personally. What I am most worried about is still the attitude of the ancient immortal descendants. Qin Ziang said after a moment of silence. When Xiao Huayer and Zhou Qinghong heard this, their faces became grave. Qin Wushi killed Yi Zifeng, destroyed the Fong family in the northwest, and this time, he killed Yi Jianxian's concubine, so the grudge with the Yi family will definitely not be resolved, which means that the Yellow Emperor clan will hardly be on his side, Zhou Qinghong's side. Yin Yan is all set to kill Qin Fan. It would be impossible for me to stay my hand in his place. Xiao Huanger said. There's also the Chu family. Qin Wushi and the Chu family don't have a good relationship either, so I'm afraid that it's hard to pull in the White Emperor clan side as well, unless Qin Wushi is willing to apologize, but with Qin Wushi's character, it's never going to happen. Zhou Qinghong added. Xiao Huanger had a helpless look on her face. The White Emperor clan side's attitude was bound to be no better. What's left is the Chen, Qin, and Xiao families, Qin Wushi and Dr. Chen have an excellent relationship, so there's not much of a problem, and the Xiao family has a normal relationship. Zhou Qinghong continued to analyze Old Man Qin. What is your Qin family's attitude towards Qin Fan? Hearing this, Xiao Huanger looked at Qin Ziang and asked, well, at least it's all surnamed Qin, it shouldn't be bad, right? Qin Ziang heard this and fell silent. Why don't you speak? Xiao Huanger asked. Old Zhou, did you find out something? Qin Ziang suddenly asked. Zhou Qinghong smiled at his words and said, a little bit. Don't play dumb riddles, you too. Xiao Huanger became anxious. Is it true that Qin Fan is the young master of your Qin family who has been exiled from the world, and then he's going to return as a king this time? When Qin Ziang heard this, he looked at Xiao Huanger and laughed. Hey, Goddess Xiao, have you not been practicing lately and have been reading novels exclusively? Xiao Huanger rolled her eyes and said, if you don't say it, then don't say it. I'm going to go cultivate and break through into the legend realm. After saying that, Xiao Huayer turned into a purple flame and rushed up into the sky, leaving the Jade Void Palace. Qin Ziang and Zhou Qinghong saw Xiao Huayer leave and shook their heads, and this is really a little girl's heart. Old Zhou, the investigation of those things stops here. Now the most important thing is to watch that island. Don't be like that time in Japan again, being cold shot by Milky Way. Qin Ziang said. Zhou Qinghong nodded and said, good. After saying that, he thought for a moment and said, however, it is necessary for me to remind you that Qin Wushi's current strength is actually a threat to the Xia kingdom as well. I know, but Qin Fan, he, since the beginning, has never betrayed the Xia kingdom, so there is no need to discuss this matter. Qin Ziang said. Understood. Zhou Qinghong said, his body flickered and disappeared with him as well. Chapter 398, Shenong Ding. North China, Summer Kingdom. The entire Yi family was in shock. As for the Yi family's ancestral land, a burst of sword sounds resounded, a sword aura rose up to the sky, and there was even a terrifying sword intent that filled the sky. The Yi family head and many other powerful people were kneeling before the ancestral land, their bodies trembling. They knew that Yi family sword immortal Yi Wushuang had learned that his concubine Yin Yan had died, thus a monstrous killing intent surged out. You are angered by this and want to come out of the gate? Right at this moment, an insalubrious voice came out. Along with this voice, the Yi clan's crowd saw a figure come from the distance, hovering in the sky above the ancestral land. This person had long hair and wore green clothes, his temples were gray, but his face was handsome and young. Lord Wuya. When the Yi family head saw the visitor, he immediately said respectfully. This person was the former Jade Void Palace master, Yi Wuya, who had the title of martial god. Yi Wuya ignored these people and instead looked at the ancestral land and continued, "You know very well that your true opponent is not Qin Xingxian. Although Qin Xingxian is strong, what is he compared to your true opponent? If you want to avenge your concubine, I can do it for you." As Yi Wuya's words fell, the sound of clanging swords ceased, and the sword qi and sword intent dissipated. After this dispersed, the people of the Yi family let out a long sigh of relief. Only then did Yi Wuya nod his head in satisfaction before landing on the ground. "Lord Wuya, are you prepared to strike against that Qin Xingxian?" After Yi Wuya landed on the ground, Yi Hontu then stepped forward and asked nervously. "Qin Xingxian is indeed a character, what's the harm in fighting with him?" Yi Wuya said indifferently. When Yi Hontu heard this, his heart was immediately overjoyed. His own son Yi Zifeng could have his revenge. The news of Qin Fan killing the 7 strongest powerhouses of the world naturally spread on the internet. No one on the internet originally believed that this was true. This was because the United States of America had said that Qin Xingxian had died under their positron cannon. However, countless powerful people had been on the island to witness this earth-shattering battle, which could even be said to be a battle that changed the pattern of the world. It made one compelled to believe that everything that had happened was true. This Qin Xingxian is just too terrifying. Back then, that era when divine realms were everywhere, hadn't even seen such a character appear, had it? Fighting 7 with 1, and killing like a chicken, this kind of terrifying existence, this is something that has never been seen before. God, Arthur, the Pope, Bar, these are all legendary figures with all sorts of amazing life-preserving means and secret methods on their bodies. As such peak-level powerhouses rarely fall. No one would even bother to kill such god realm powerhouses. Once they fail, then they would have to face horrifying retaliation, and this Qin Xingxian even killed them all. It's truly unimaginable. You say such strength, is it really the god realm? Is it possible that he is beyond the divine realm? Above the internet, countless remarks appeared, all of them shocked by Qin Xingxuan's terrifying battle results, some even already suspecting that Qin Xingxuan's strength was not even the so-called god realm. A realm such as the legend realm was unfamiliar to most people, and they might not even realize that there was a legend realm above the divine realm after all. What most people knew about the god realm was that it meant gods, and gods were considered the most supreme of existences, but the god realm was actually the realm of the passing god realm, with the legendary realm on top of it. Qin Xingxuan's strength truly can no longer be measured in terms of the god realm, his strength must have surpassed the god realm. Right at this moment, a message spread throughout the entire network, and it was that Jianghu Baishaosheng of the Xian sect who released this message. And as soon as this news was released, the entire network was in an uproar with it. Indeed, otherwise wouldn't this Qin Xingxuan's strength be so terrifying? But his name appeared above the divine ranking. How come he's not a divine realm? Right, he's number 1 on the god ranking. Many people were shocked as well as questioned. This is because the divine ranking was unable to thoroughly assess Qin Xingxuan's strength, but after this battle, the divine ranking completed its full assessment of Qin Xingxian, and his name has disappeared above the divine ranking. Jianghu Baishaosheng released the news, along with a picture of the divine ranking. At this moment, Qin Xingxuan's name had disappeared, and the number 1 on the divine ranking was already Xiaohuar from the Xia kingdom. Then what exactly is Qin Xingxuan's realm? Or what exactly is the realm above the god realm? Yes, tell us. Many people asked Jianghu Baishao. Instead of focusing on Qin Xingxuan's realm, why don't we focus on the changes in the future world? Jianghu Baishaosheng sent out a message. What does your excellency mean by this? Someone inquired. Once upon a time, the divine realm was the strongest existence in the world. It was a strength that could shake a country, but now Qin Xingxian has caused countless divine realm powerhouses to fall, and his strength has already surpassed the divine realm. This means that in the future, those legendary powerhouses and even true gods will descend. The people of Jianghu issued meaningful words. At this moment, the people on the network came to realize. Qin Xingxian was a powerhouse that had surpassed the divine realm, so powerhouses above the divine realm were bound to exist, and it was definitely not possible for Qin Xingxian to be the only one. And after this battle, those strong people who had surpassed the god realm would definitely not remain hidden in the world. and would most likely come out into the world at that time, I'm afraid that this world would be peaked. This is a battle that will change the world. Get ready for a whole new world. Zhanghu Baishao sent out a message, and after this message was sent out, many people held their breath. This day, Qin Xinxian had not only shaken the entire world, but had changed the entire world. While the outside world was abuzz, Qin Fan had already brought little Qing inside the Divine Known clan's ancient immortal ruins. Xiao Qing's 7-peak God Realm powerhouse's physical body had once again fallen into slumber, ready to continue evolving. This was also inevitable. After all, those were peak God Realm powerhouses, and there were still 7 of them, and little Qing had never eaten anything more tonic than these 7 since he grew up. Therefore, it was impossible to not evolve. Qin Fan could only place it on top of his shoulders and entered within the ancient immortal trail. Although the ancient immortal trail was a hunting bureau for Qin Fan, everything inside was real, all left by the ancient Shinnon clan, and it was protected by intricate and incomparable spell formations. Even the forbidden formations inside were a ring of 9 consecutive formations. Just all of this, for Qin Fan who has the eye of true vision, is of no use. With Qin Fan's means, it is all broken in seconds, even complex he can cut through with a sword. Therefore, all the forbidden formations in there were null and void for Qin Fan. In the end, Qin Fan entered the most central place of the ancient immortal trail, a stone hall. In this stone hall, Qin Fan saw a huge tripod. Qin Fan looked at the ancient words engraved on top of the cauldron and slowly read out, Shinong Tripod. Chapter 399 Replacement. Qin Fan looked at the godly farmer's tripod and revealed a look of astonishment. The divine farmer's tripod was nearly 10 meters tall, and its entire body was copper green, but the material was by no means copper, but a metal material that even Qin Fan did not know. Around the divine farmer's tripod, the spiritual qi was dazzling, as if it was the astral wind, emitting a faint treasure light, in which there was even a faint medicinal fragrance wafting out. Qin Fan's body floated up and opened the eye of true vision, looking into the interior of the divine farmer's tripod. 1, 2, 3. 999 arrays. This is actually a top-grade Dao weapon alchemy tripod. At this moment, Qin Fan was shocked by the divine farmer's tripod. The magic treasures used by cultivators can be categorized into magic weapons, spirit weapons, and treasure weapons, with the magic weapons corresponding to the foundation establishment stage, the spirit weapons being the Jiedan stage, and the treasure weapons being the Yuaning stage. These corresponds to the corresponding realm must be able to refine. And the magic weapon at the level of the transfiguration stage is the Dao weapon. Each level of magic weapon is also divided into lower grade, middle grade, upper grade, top grade. This grade is according to the magic weapon contained within the formation to distinguish. A treasure with more than 100 formations was a Dao weapon, and if it had more than 300 formations, it could be called an absolute grade Dao weapon. In the entire Qingxian astral domain, one could count on one hand the number of absolute grade Dao artifacts. Qin Fan's own sword, the Royal Heavenly Sword, was only an absolute grade treasure weapon, not a Dao weapon. The only Dao weapon he had seen was the Great Dao Sword, which was the Great Dao Sect's treasure of the Great Dao Sect. And the Great Dao Sword was only a top-grade Dao weapon. In the entire Qingxian starfield, there was naturally one absolute grade Dao artifact, and that was the Red Moon Demon Sect's Great Red Heavenly Demon Sword. But if one were to ask the same absolute grade Dao artifact, the kind of Dao artifact that was the most precious, any cultivator would choose the alchemy cauldron without hesitation. Immortal cultivators need to take a large number of pills to enhance their cultivation, or for all kinds of recovery. The higher the cultivation level, the more pills are needed, and the higher the quality requirements. The source of pills is to buy or refine, and the key to refining is the Dan tripod. The better the Dan tripod, refining out of the pills is naturally better. Moreover, with a Dan Ding not only can you refine pills, you can even refine all kinds of magic treasures. Once you have a Dan Ding, it means that the immortal cultivator has a great protection. Therefore, Danding tripods were extremely precious, a spiritual artifact. Even a lower grade Danding tripod would cause many cultivators to scramble for it. If it was a treasure artifact level Danding, it would be a bloodbath to fight over. If it was a superb Dao artifact level Danding cauldron, it was going to trigger a scramble across the entire starfield, no different from the Chaos Pearl. This Shinong Ding is too powerful. It contains 999 formations. That's already the limit of an absolute grade Dao artifact. If it can be supplemented with a core formation, then it can still evolve, then it's a sacred artifact. Qin Fan used the eye of true vision to observe the divine peasant tripod and became increasingly shocked. The more formations a magic treasure contained, the more powerful it would be, but the more formations it had, the higher the requirements for materials. If the materials were not good, so many spell formations in operation would simply collapse. And as the Shinong Ding reached 999 spell formations, the materials were bound to be astonishing and incomparable, and the more astonishing the effects and power it brought, the more astonishing it would be. No, the Divine Nong Ding might have originally been a Dan Ding that surpassed the absolute grade Dao artifacts just like my Supreme Treasure Bottle, only that it's now damaged and the core formation has shattered, falling from a holy artifact to an absolute grade Dao artifact. Suddenly, Qin Fan's heart shook violently as he remembered the Supreme Treasure Bottle he was carrying. The Supreme Treasure Vase was also a broken magic treasure that was originally at the level of a lower-grade magic weapon, but after Qin Fan had incorporated into an artifact spirit, it was now restored to a middle-grade magic weapon after recovering over the past few days. Now this Shinong Ding was an absolute grade Dao weapon, and in accordance with this grade, this was something that could only be refined by a cultivator of the God transformation stage. Did the once ancient immortal descent exist at the God transformation stage, or even beyond the God transformation stage cultivators? Qin Fan was appalled as he thought of this. He had guessed that the Earth had a brilliant immortal cultivation civilization in the ancient times, but this civilization underwent a drastic change or disaster, eventually becoming the land of the end. Now, after he saw the Shinong tripod, he was afraid that the immortal cultivation civilization in the ancient times was still above the Qinxian starfield. Ancient immortal descent, it seems that this word immortal really might not be a fake, and it's really possible that there were immortals in the ancestors of those people's immortal descent. Qin Fan sighed with emotion in his heart, and with a sweep of his body, he rushed into the divine peasant tripod and began to sacrifice. There were 999 legal formations inside the Danding tripod, and they were extremely subtle, and they were interlocked, so it could be said that they were complicated. If you want to refine it into your own magic treasure, you need to refine all 999 legal formations once, and then put your own brand on it. Even a spirit transformation stage cultivator would find it difficult to do so, and even if he could, it would take several decades, or even hundreds of years. However, Qin Fan had the eye of true vision, which allowed him to see through these formations, so naturally, he did not need to spend that much time. Qin Fan entered the tripod and began to sacrifice non-stop, and the more he sacrificed, the more he realized that his deduction was correct. The core grand formation of the divine peasant tripod was indeed broken before it became an absolute grade Dao artifact, and if it was repaired it would be able to evolve. Only, it was impossible to repair it with Qin Fan's current strength, not even at the God transformation stage. It had to be above the God transformation stage at the return to void, or even above it at the harmonization stage to be able to do so. Therefore, now was not the time for him to think about repairing the grand array. All he had to do now was to focus on sacrificing the divine farmer's tripod. When Qin Fan was concentrating on sacrificing the divine Nong Ding, above the 10,000 miles of sky, a magnificent palace was quietly suspended, as if it had existed for an unknown number of years. This magnificent palace in the sky, glittering with divine splendor, is the place where the gods reside, the Hall of Gods. Inside a spacious study within the palace, huge bookshelves were arranged with various books, and various colors of weapons were hung on the walls. A blind old crone was chanting to a huge crystal ball. At this time, the space within the study suddenly rippled, and then a portal opened out of thin air, and a figure clad in a black and gold robe walked out. The robe shrouded the entire body, and the person's true appearance could not be seen. This person was no other than the Lord of the Temple of Gods, the God King. After the God King appeared, he walked to a chair at the back and sat down, looking at the huge and then bizarre crystal ball. After about 15 minutes, the crystal ball's luster disappeared while that blind old crone turned around and knelt in front of the God King. "Prophet of Fate, what did you see?" the God King slowly asked. "I viewed the fate line of the man named Qin Fan." Saying that, a light blue light appeared in the void, while this fate line slowly moved forward, and suddenly, a parallel light blue fate line appeared on the side. The two fate lines traveled parallel to each other, not interfering with each other, never intersecting, and extending towards the front. Suddenly, the void shook, and the two fate lines shook with it, and the two fate lines that would never intersect suddenly intersected at this moment, and the line that finally became one, extended forward for a while before stopping. The God King looked at the stopped fate line and asked, "Someone has taken over Qin Fan?" "No, it's a replacement," the Prophet of Fate said.